All right, welcome everyone. I would like to call tonight's meeting of the Monroe County Council to order. Today is Tuesday, May the 12th, and I want to note for the record that we have council members Jen Crossing and Trent Deckard are not going to be present. We do have council member Henry to my right. We have council member Feidel, and we have council member Wiltz here as well, including myself. So we do have quorum. All right, as is our custom, we're going to begin tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise as you are able and join us.
To the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all very much for that. We're going to start tonight by adopting our agenda, and I want to look to my council colleagues and ask if anyone wishes to amend this evening's agenda. Noting that Councilmember Hawk just arrived. Welcome, Councilmember Hawk. Hearing no amendments to tonight's agenda, all those in favor of this agenda, please, we can do a voice vote, can't we?
Yes.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it unanimously. Next, we are going to go to public comments. This is for items that are not on the agenda. There will be a time limit of 3 minutes per speaker. Please come forward to the podium here in the Nat U. Hill Room, or if you are joining us on Teams, please raise your hand to be recognized. If you'd like to, please come forward or raise your hand. All right. Last call. Seeing none, it's time to move on to department updates. There will be a time limit of 10 minutes per department. Do we have anyone in the Nat U. Hill Room that would like to give a departmental update? Anyone on Teams would like to give a departmental update? Seeing none, we will move on to, we do not have any consent agenda items, which is interesting, but then that means we'll move up. Hold on 1 second. No, Councilmember, otherwise. We'll move on to the building department for a hiring freeze review.
Council, I move to open for discussion and possible approval of the building department's request to be exempt from the hiring freeze and be allowed to hire in Fund 1000-0312, County General Building, 1 full-time commercial building inspector.
Second.
All right, we have Robert LaRue, building commissioner here. What do we need to know?
Good evening, councilors. Thanks for having me here tonight. We have, the county has 2 commercial building inspectors proposed and a senior commercial building inspector. These folks are responsible for doing plan review, reviewing and issuing permits, and then performing inspections on all of the commercial structures, which include apartment buildings in the county's jurisdictional area. So Monroe County and the city of Bloomington. Currently, the senior inspector has stayed, and the commercial building inspector has decided to take a different position with a different governmental agency. And then the second commercial building inspector position has remained vacant as requested with the hiring freeze. I want to let you all know this is the single most difficult position in the department to fill. It has been very problematic to get folks to do this. It is a complicated job. We have to know about building code, mechanical code, plumbing code, fuel gas code, electric code, all of those things that go into building and building inspection. And to boot, I ask and we work hard to know all of those things. So it is a tricky position to fill, but we have to have it. We're getting towards inspection time for apartments and final inspections to commission and to provide certificates of occupancy to lots of housing in the jurisdiction. And that is one of the responsibilities of the commercial building inspector. I'm happy to answer questions about what it is we do. I'll be working to do inspections, but I really need to fill one of these positions and get them going. I think I mentioned to you before, takes probably about 2 years to actually have a fully functioning, independent building inspector, and we need to get started. I did mention that we have a lot of final inspections coming up here very soon. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. LaRue. Are there any questions from council? Yes, Councilmember Hawk.
Just a comment that this is really, in part, not just supporting this department, but also supporting our local builders, and all of that comes together in supporting housing. So I certainly support this.
Just an addition, and I appreciate that comment a lot. We are currently, having to kind of restrict people to only so many hours of inspection a day, so that we can get around to everybody in the community and try to make sure that everybody has their needs met by our department. That is going to, that's only going to get worse. It's only going to push this project out time frame wise, all of these projects out to a longer time frame.
Councilmember Wiltz.
Thanks. I had 2 questions. The first is, I just want to make sure that I understand you're keeping one position open.
Yes.
You have been doing.
As requested with the hiring freeze, I'm not asking to fill that second position, but I don't know how to function without at least one, and we're already stretched like a rubber band.
Okay. And I see that the position is 35 hours. Are all of the positions in your department 35 hours?
They are, yes.
Okay. That's all I have right now. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? All right, go to the public. Any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, can we do a roll call vote on this?
Yes.
Can we please have, we need to do a roll call, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah. Please have that.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you all very much. And I also want to say thanks for your commitment to our interlocal agreement. It really helps me plan and understand what's before us. And I know I wasn't here super late a couple weeks ago, but I really appreciate your help. Thank you so much.
All right, that concludes our hiring freeze reviews. Let's move on now to council business, and we'll start with item number A, the Highway Department.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Departments in Fund 4920-0000 West Side Economic Development TIF for an additional appropriation of $200,000 in the services category.
Second.
And with us today, we have Lisa Ridge, our Highway Director. What do we need to know?
Good evening. So we're just working to get this project closed out. I know we have some outstanding change orders and stuff that go back and forth between NDOT and the contractor. So we anticipated these costs, so we were just wanting to do the additional to start the process to try and get it closed out.
Council, do you have any questions about the Vernal Pike Connector?
I do not.
Stumped them.
Huh?
You stumped them.
It's fine with me.
All right.
That's good.
Let's go to the public for any questions. Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Hogg?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes?
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're moving on to item B, emergency management.
Council, I move to approve the Emergency Management Department's request in Fund 8188-9625 EMPG Salary Grant for additional appropriations of $55,000 in the personnel category.
Second.
And we are joined by Mr. Justin Baker, our Emergency Management Deputy Director on Teams. Mr. Baker, when you are available, the floor is yours. Tell us what we need to know.
Good evening, Counselor. Yes, this is the annual grant that we get each year that pays back our salary for $55,000. Comes from the FEMA and it goes down to the state, and it's a reimbursement to the county.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Council, do you have any questions for emergency management?
This is just a way for us to help support this department, and it pays a certain percentage of their salaries and expenses.
Please help. All right. And any other comments or questions from council? Seeing none, let's go to the public. Do you have any questions or comments about this emergency management appropriation or grant? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Hogg?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes?
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
All right.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Next, item C, the courts.
Council, I move to approve the court's request in Fund 4018-0000 Court Interpreter Grant for an additional appropriation of $20,300 in the services category.
Second.
All right, we have Lisa Abram here with the courts. Tell us what's going on.
All right, I applied for and received an emergency interpreter grant to help offset costs for interpreters for the county. And I was surprised, but they awarded me $20,300. So for the whole year, I only got $9,000, which I used that in about 2.5 months. And this time they gave me $20,000, which will be spent in about 2 months' time. So I have already, I think I calculated this morning about 16,000 and change invoices that have come in. So most of this is already gone, but at least I got it.
Absolutely. This will help immensely.
Yes.
Council, any questions or comments for the courts? Councilmember Woods. Thank you.
I'll miss you.
Yes, this is the last time you have to see me. So Jama Chandler, my deputy court, is going to take over my spot, and she's been here a couple times. You're already familiar with her, so.
And writing more grants, right?
Yes, she has already written a couple herself that she received the court technology grants twice already. So, and I've showed her how to do this one, so we can keep going.
Good. All right, thank you so much. All right, we've exhausted council questions and comments. Now we'll go to the public. Do you have any questions or comments for the clerk? Seeing none, Michelle, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Wiltz? Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Hogg?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you've done. Next, we'll go to item D, the Youth Services Bureau.
Council, I move to approve the Youth Services Bureau request in Fund 4111-0000, donations-BTCC, for an additional appropriation of $7,560 in the services category.
Second.
All right, we are joined here by Melanie Veslage, YSB Prevention Coordinator. Tell us what we need to know.
We have some money and we'd like to appropriate it into the appropriate line. Delta ahead, we're in the 4th year of this grant, which is a CDC grant with ICADV, the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence. The purpose of this grant is to decrease risk factors and increase protective factors related to intimate partner violence by modifying the social determinants of health. So we've got a lot of overlap with that in YSB. And then the MC3 Summit sponsorships, we're working on making sure that we have sufficient funding to pull off the MC3 for this year. So I think it's pretty simple, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you'd like.
That being said, Council, do you have any questions or comments for the Youth Services Bureau? Yes, Councilmember Wiltz.
Congratulations on bringing money in and keeping these programs going. They're really important.
Thank you.
All right, I second that. Are there any other comments or questions? Let's go to the public. Are there any comments or questions from the public for the Youth Services Bureau? Seeing none, Michelle, could we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Henry,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Feidel,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. That moves us on to item E, aviation.
Council, I move to approve the Aviation Department's request in Fund 4801-0000 Aviation Construction Fund for an additional appropriation of $63,353.55 in the capital category.
Second.
All right, we are joined by Mr. Carlos Laverty, the director of our airport, who has joined us on Teams. Welcome, Mr. Laverty.
Good evening.
Good evening. Tell us what we need to know.
We would like to replace a truck that was damaged in an auto accident. Our insurance provider totaled the vehicle, which was acquired with an FAA grant. It was one of the electric trucks that we had acquired. Insurance wrote us a check for a total of $62,438.34. And we would only have to pay $915.21 for the difference of a replacement vehicle. So the insurance funds were deposited into the aviation construction fund, and we're just asking that the dollars be appropriated to the equipment line for the purchase.
All right. Council, any questions or comments for Mr. Laverty? None? And Mr. Laverty, the motion that was read, at least the materials we have, do indicate that the funds will be going into that construction fund as you requested, so.
Thank you.
We just might want to make it clear to anyone who's listening, this is not local tax dollars. It's still public dollars, but it's not local tax dollars.
Great clarification, thank you. All right, any more questions from council? Now let's go to the public. Does anybody in the public have any questions for the airport? Seeing none, Michelle, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Feidel,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Henry.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Thank
Laverty.
you.
Next, we're moving on to item F, the clerk's office.
Council, I move to open for discussion and possible approval of the clerk's request to be exempt from the overtime transfer freeze and be allowed to complete an in-house transfer in Fund 1215-0062, Election Fund, Election Board Clerk, within the personnel category.
Second.
All right, with us, we've got the whole crew. Welcome, Madam Clerk. Glad you're here. And all those who are joining us to really put the pressure on council here.
Just to be clear, there is no child labor law violation within the Monroe County government.
That's fine.
But, you know, you're looking at a pre-Harvard law student, so she might learn something this
That's
evening.
just what I was thinking. Yeah, pre-Harvard law, yep. All right, tell us what's going on here. What can we do?
This is a request for the in-house transfer to cover some shortfalls so that we can pay our staff who helped us with preparing for the primary election.
All right. Anything else to add? All right, council, do you have any questions or comments for the clerk's office?
I would just, I'm
Please,
sorry.
yeah, no, please.
Like, I don't really have, like, critical questions or anything. I just would like to know if you wanted to take the opportunity to talk about the primary in any way.
Well, I think let us tag team on that if you don't mind. So first, I'm very proud that we got Monroe County through the primary that you asked for, which was a robust primary. We did have better than expected turnout every day of early voting. Everything got off to a good start on election day until we found a glitch. But I'm very happy to report that that was less than 20 minutes long. And for whatever reason, our e-poll books would not, if you went to scan, those of you who have early voted would know, if you went to scan your driver's license, it did not show you as being in that polling site. We are very, very fortunate to have an incredible e-poll book vendor as well as an incredible IT vendor, and they got together immediately, and by 6:18, everybody was voting and everything was going smoothly. That did not create any kind of issue. We had more than 10,000, I don't have the number, more than 10,000 voters who voted on election day without problem, and the weather cooperated in a better than expected way than we anticipated. I checked with Kylie this morning, and I'll certainly let her add anything. We did not have as many provisionals as I anticipated. We will reconcile provisional ballots on Friday, but I think the winners were very clear cut. You know who won, you know who lost, and so I don't have anything other than because of an incredible group of people and, of course, our poll workers, early and absentee voting, we were able to deliver you the primary that you asked for.
I'll add that our staff was able to come together and work together as much as we possibly could, with us being a little bit short-staffed in a couple of areas. But thankfully, we were able to just come together. A lot of us were working more hours than what we're used to. A lot of us, well, I should say all of us were there until 6 p.m. almost every single day, helping in some way, some form, in one of the many different areas that we needed to be. And then I was there some nights later than the 6 p.m. helping with training and other items with our training specialist. And just majority, it was really good that I have a team that is so easily able to just be flexible and say, hey, wherever you need us, we'll be there. So.
That's Member Feidel.
Did you mention something about provisional ballots? Did I hear that?
I said we'll be reconciling provisional ballots. So, of course, and I just got this email. I asked Kylie for it this morning. So people who did not show up with their identification, or people who showed up at the wrong polling site, and unfortunately, those who do not realize that you have to be registered in the county that you live in, there are some, I'm going to venture to guess that they are largely from the Indiana University community, who were registered in different counties, although I have to say Kylie does an incredible job of going over to the university to encourage students to change their voter registration ahead so that we don't have moments like this. Still, we find people who just were not willing to let go at the time, forgot that they did not change it, and then it becomes too late to get an absentee by mail or something like that. So if I remember correctly, you said about 60%
Yeah, we have 62 provisionals. 14 of those were no ID when they showed up to vote. Another 14 where they were not registered in this county. 13 were not at the correct polling location, and an additional 13, I believe, were the ones who went to the wrong polling location.
And then, so, can I ask
Please,
one more thing?
please.
So, and then for this 18-minute, what we're calling it, were there provisional ballots taken in then?
No, so actually only one provisional ballot was taken in during that time. It was because that location didn't fully understand the concept of a Form 42, which is a county-created form to check in voters who are not showing up in the poll book, or if there is an issue with the poll book, then we have that form to be a backup check-in that we then check them in after Election Day to get their voting record up to date.
All right, any other comments or questions to my right? Please, Mr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we originally budgeted this cycle, the thought was we would take a look at how the primary went, in terms of spending and where we spent and where there are adjustments, and then revisit for the fall. I mean, I know you're still dealing with provisional ballots and the like, but when do you think you would be back before us to start talking about a fall budget?
The next meeting, correct?
At the next meeting?
Not for the fall, not the next meeting, for the fall. I asked Kylie if we could get through. I have an annual clerks conference in June. I'd like to sit down with our budget, and I obviously haven't had a chance to do that in the last 7 days. But I mean, we are coming back to you in 2 weeks for some additional appropriations, but it is not connected to the fall money.
Just thinking ahead too,
I am thinking ahead too, sir.
Good, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, let's go to the public. Does the public have any comments or questions for the clerk? Seeing none, may we please have? We have one public comment. Please come to the mic and state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, council members. My name is Joe Davis, and as clerk for Circuit Court, I was there at early voting every day, and I have to say, to the job that everyone did. The volunteers were amazing who were working the polls. Kylie had a tight team. Anything that came up, they were on top of it. Ms. Brown was over there constantly double checking to make sure everything was going fine. They did a fantastic job. I know for a fact that on election night, some data had to be entered all the way up until 3:30 in the morning. And, therefore that put those employees for sure into overtime, but it was just a few of the staff. So at any rate, everything went fantastic. I would constantly ask the voters as they came out after voting how it went for them, and they all had nothing but praise for the experience. It was very fast. However, there was one issue, and that many elderly folks who came who had mobility issues, for them, it could be quite challenging to walk all the way through the whole where you enter to vote in early voting and where you exit. So it might be worthwhile to staff someone in the future who could be sort of like a concierge who has a wheelchair out there ready for anybody who might need that assistance. But overall, everything went fantastic. And again, hats off. Thank you very much.
If I may respond.
Please.
First, I want to thank you. Your praise is incredibly generous. It's like a proud parent. I always know that I have the best team this side of heaven, and that is how we make it through. So I appreciate your publicly acknowledging that. Thank you. That's very, very generous of you. Regarding your concern, You are breaking news to me here in this room that there were elderly people who everybody that I talked to spoke very highly of the space, spoke very highly of how quickly things went and they were able to get in and out without any issue. And of course, we have wheelchairs on site should someone need them. So unless there's something that my own election supervisor has not told me, you are breaking news that there were complaints regarding elderly voters.
Oh, there weren't complaints, but one time actually, one of the voters who parked close in the handicap parking area needed a wheelchair, and so I ran up to the front area to let someone know that someone needed a wheelchair assistance, and actually I got in trouble for that for being in the chute. So, you know, that's why
I'm gonna pull this
but
back.
anyway,
Because
thank you.
We're talking about overtime here, and
Yes.
and I'm sure this conversation will continue on.
The overtime deserves to be paid.
Madam Clerk.
I simply did not want it to be on a televised meeting that we were not attuned to the needs of our voters. I am aware of an incident where a person had a medical emergency that was addressed, and I believe that I know to what he is referring, but I simply would never want any voter to think that we were not prepared to receive them well, and have them have a good voting experience, which was all of the feedback that I was given.
All right, let that be the final word.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's a good final word to end on. Michelle, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. All right, next, let's move on to item G, our waste reduction district.
Council, I move to approve that Monroe County officially accepts responsibility for the post-closure care on behalf of the Waste Reduction District of Monroe County pursuant to Indiana Administrative Code 329-IAC-39-3.
Second.
All right, we have Mr. Tom McGlasson with us. Tell us what's going on.
Again, thank you. This is become an annual request for us. We're required to put up financial assurance for the closed Monroe County landfill in the northeastern part of the county. There's a required third-year post-closure monitoring and maintenance period. So in essence, we're required to demonstrate to the state that the funding is available to complete the monitoring and maintenance for the remainder of that post-closure period. You can see in the documents included in the meeting packet for this year, the post-closure cost remaining post-closure cost estimate, $2,172,977. That's about $80,400 less than last year's cost estimate. The administrative code provides several different mechanisms by which the demonstration can be made. We prefer to use the local government financial test option as that does not require any expense on the part of the district or the county to make that demonstration. This is something we've done for 12 or 13 years in a row now. The county has graciously made that demonstration on our behalf. The district does not meet the requirements of a local financial government test option due to our annual revenue in relation to what the post-closure cost estimate is. So to date, we have never had to request any funds from the county as a result of making this demonstration. We've been able to absorb the monitoring and maintenance cost into our annual budget. We certainly foresee that to be the case for the foreseeable future as well. Additionally, the district does have a post-closure trust fund that as of April 30th had a balance of just over $830,000, and those funds obviously would be utilized before we would ever ask the county for any assistance. With that, I have Lee Polson here with me, who is our landfill director. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you so much for explaining that to us. I'm going to look to Councilmember Wiltz first, since, yeah, you signed this document.
Yeah. So thank you for being here. I have some questions just for the good of the order, and then I would like to hear a little bit from Lee about just how things are going as we're winding down on the period, the 30-year period. But my first question is, you mentioned a post-closure trust fund. What happens to that money if you don't spend it by the end of this period?
The state, the Department of Environmental Management, is a co-trustee on that fund. So they would have to approve, the disbursement of any monies from that fund. But it is the district's money. And at the end of the post-closure period, upon approval from the state, those funds would revert back to the district.
That's fun. So the other question, what is the date of anticipated all done?
2039.
Sorry?
2039.
Okay, it's coming up faster than you think. The tree planting, I'd like an update on how the trees are, and anything else you'd like to tell us about what's going on out there.
The trees are growing. They're still
little trees.
They're still pretty small. So we've actually, Mary Beth and I have been starting to try to eradicate some of the invasive species that are growing very quickly around those trees, but that just takes time. But everything seems to be going just fine. Landfill is doing what the landfill is supposed to do. We've been able to absorb all the costs that we've need to maintain and keep up with it within our normal budget. And right now everything is in decent good shape, so we're moving forward. So, yep.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions now that Councilmember Wiltz asked them all?
No.
Right. Let's go to the public. If you have questions for the Waste Reduction District, please come to the mic or raise your hand on Teams. Seeing none, Michelle, can we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, next we'll move on to item H, the Board of Commissioners.
Council, I move to approve the Board of Commissioners' request in Fund 4112-0000 donations SUDAC for the creation of account line 30013 professional services, and simultaneously approve an additional appropriation of $29,560.94 in the services category.
Second.
All right, thank you all. We have with us Angie Purdy, Commissioner's Administrator, and one of the commissioners herself in the flesh. All right, so what do we need to know about this SUDAC appropriation?
What's your best? Do you want me to start? Okay, so this is money that's currently remaining in the fund that is specific to SUDAC, and this is based on budget that's been approved.
Excuse me, you're going to have to pull the mic.
Sorry.
Thank you.
No problem. So, this is requesting appropriation of the funds that remain in the fund that is specific to the SUDAC fund, the SUDAC board. And these funds will allow for the current SUDAC to begin and preparing for the fall, I think it is, event that's going to be handled and managed by SUDAC.
All right. Are there any questions or comments from council? Please, Councilmember Wiltz.
This says donations / SUDAC. I just wanted to make sure that it was made very clear. These are all donations from private entities.
Yeah, so these are revenues that have been earned from prior events, and then just straight up donations.
Could you tell us about the event that's?
Sure. Each year we have an opioid summit, and the summit is largely for professionals in the field and those who are interested in the subject matter. And this year we expect approximately, I think, 150, 160 attendees, and we expect to get roughly 30,000 to 50,000 in subsidizing donations. And so think about it like a continuing education type of event. But this is a great opportunity to bring together, resources at Indiana University, resources in the community, resources across the state.
Or date set for this?
Early September.
September 1st and 2nd.
Yes.
At the Bloomington Convention Center. And for the edification of the public, we keep throwing around these acronyms as government. What is SUDAC? We've said it 100 times. SUDAC is the Substance Use Disorder Advisory Commission. So there you go, answering my own questions.
Thank you.
Do it again.
I don't think I need to. All right. Council members, do we have any other comments or questions? Seeing none, let's go to the public. Do you have any questions or comments for the Board of Commissioners regarding substance use disorder? Seeing none, Michelle, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
All right, thank you very much. All right, before we move on to the much anticipated next item, we on the council are going to take a 15-minute break. I know, because we need to prepare a little bit here. So council, we're looking at 5:43. Please be back by 6 o'clock. All right, welcome back, folks. This is, of course, the Monroe County Council. Thank you for joining us online, those of you who are joining us on Teams. We're gonna hop right back into our agenda, and we're gonna go to item number I, which is the Board of Commissioners. And this is gonna be a long one, so buckle in.
Okay, Council, I move to open for introduction and the first reading of Ordinance 2026-17, fixing terms and conditions for the purchase of property as follows. Whereas pursuant to the authority granted to the Monroe County Council, by the General Assembly of the State of Indiana under IC 36-2-2-20, the Council, a conveyance or purchase by a county of land having a value of $1,000 or more must be authorized by an ordinance of the county fiscal body fixing the terms and conditions of the transaction. And whereas the Monroe County Board of Commissioners intend to purchase land from the Logan Land Development LLC seller under certain terms, which are described in the attached and incorporated contract for purchase of real estate marked as Exhibit 1, and whereas Exhibit 1 indicates a purchase price of $11,375, the agreement requires council approval pursuant to IC 36-1-10.5-5 and IC 36-2-2-20. Now, therefore, be it ordained and established by the Monroe County Council as follows. Section 1. The Monroe County Council has been provided 2 appraisals for the property owned by the seller and shown in Exhibit 1. Section 2. The council wishes for Monroe County to acquire the property owned by seller and described in Exhibit 1. As fiscal body for Monroe County, this ordinance serves as the expression of the council's interest in purchasing the land as required by IC 36-1-10.5-5. Section 3, per IC 36-2-2-20, the council approves of all the terms and conditions described in the contract for purchase of real estate, which is attached hereto as Exhibit 1. The council recognizes that the purchase price does not exceed the average of 2 of the appraisals received and accepted by the council. Section 4. To the extent council approval is required, the council approves the execution and deliverance of any and all documents necessary to approve the contract for purchase of real estate and authorizes officers of the county to take any and all action necessary to ratify, approve, or finalize the transaction.
Thank you so much, Councilor Fidel. All right, and I think we need a second.
Second.
All right, so we do have a whole group of folks before us from the Board of Commissioners. Who is going to open up today?
I will start today, but I will note that we have Attorney Jeff Cockrell, we have our Administrator Angie Purdy, Commissioner Madeira and myself are here. Commissioner Jones is online, so if you could promote her, I would appreciate it, TSD. And we're also going to ask the sheriff to offer his commentary as well. So we do thank you for having this first reading to consider the purchase agreement for North Park. And for folks who are new to this or need more information, we invite you to go to in.gov/county/Monroe. And in the department section on the left-hand side menu of our website, you will find a webpage for the Jail and Justice Center. So there are a lot of documents there and a timeline as well. So if anybody wants more information, it's there. We are definitely grateful and lucky that Mr. Falk of the ACLU Indiana agreed to extend the private settlement agreement on their lawsuit against the Board of Commissioners and the sheriff until the end of May. The County Council had resolved to identify a specific site for the jail by April 7th ahead of the last ACLU deadline of April 15th. That deadline was missed. The second deadline was poised to pass without a site selected, and a member of County Council asked Mr. Falk to agree to another 30-day extension, which brings us to today's looming deadline for the end of the month. Yes. Mr. Falk has made his expectations clear to all parties as outlined in the most recent extension, and he made it very clear to our attorneys last week that he will not consider an additional extension. So one of the things that has been brought up a number of times is the issue of our current facilities and whether they can be renovated, and Mr. Cockrell wants to offer a few comments on space issues in our current jail facility.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I'm the most adequate person in the room to do this, but I did go through the report that we had from Mr. Ray, and it has a whole section on deficiencies of the current facility, and this was again produced in 2021. And a lot of those dealt with space inadequacies. So I went through and I'm just going to list off the space inadequacies. And I think we've all discussed the difficulty, if not impossibility, it is to add space to that building. So inadequate counseling spaces, inadequate housing spaces, inadequate housing for segregation, inadequate isolation, inadequate processing booking, inadequate programming space, inadequate public lobby, inadequate staff areas, lack of medical interview rooms, lack of medical treatment space, lack of padded cells, lack of suicide cells, limited separation of contagious inmates, no segregation of sexes or special needs inmates, and no sick beds. And I would note that that report had two different columns, a low and a high. And so the total of all 53, not including the ones I mentioned here, the low was $22,122,000. The high was $56,484,000. Again, 2020, 21 prices. Of those, the ones I just mentioned were about 90%, 80 to 90% of those expenses. So this was by far what required more space was by far cost-wise the biggest percentage of what that report indicated.
Thank you. Commissioner Richard?
So if the settlement agreement lapses at the end of May without meeting our obligations, a site selected will then be open to new litigation, both from the ACLU and from individual inmates. This isn't a suggestion, it's a real threat. A federal judge can order any number of remedies, but let's be clear, this is a burden borne by all Monroe County taxpayers. This isn't a risk or a cost that the commissioners are willing to accept when a good solution exists. If the purchase agreement isn't approved, the private settlement agreement will end and we are subject to being sued. The court will establish requirements which might be structural remediations, moving inmates to facilities in other counties, and it may be punitive. These only divert our attention and necessary funding from what we need to be focused on, building a new jail as soon as possible. To suggest a solution like transferring inmates to other counties is irresponsible. The estimated costs of $3 to $11 million in structural remediations, $1 million per year to house at least 50 inmates in other counties' facilities, $100,000 for a transit van, and $1 million per year in wages for 6 new guards, and by the way, these are estimates in 2021 dollars, are sunk costs. They do nothing to move us towards developing a new jail. They also add significant risks to our jail staff. Our bond counsel has advised us to complete the bond process by July 2026, but a specific site needs to be selected before that bond can be initiated. We're already collecting a portion of the local income tax set aside for this project. The funding is available, it has to be structured into a bond. To allay residents' concerns, in the words of George H.W. Bush, read my lips, no new taxes. North Park is shovel ready. With a purchase agreement and a bond, we can break ground early next year and the facility can be operational by 2030. We've done our due diligence investigating properties across the county. A few years ago, we brought a petition before the City Planning Commission and the City Council to build the Justice Center on Fullerton Pike. Both bodies rejected the petition. We spent nearly a year on that process. We stated at the time that if Fullerton Pike was rejected by the city, the county would look outside city limits for this facility. What does Thompson offer? Yes, it's in the city, and yes, the county owns it, but here are the issues with that property. The City Plan Commission and City Council must approve a change to the Planned Unit Development, or PUD. We can't proceed without approval. It's a necessary public process that we have to respect, and it can't be shortened or avoided. That fact alone makes any project on Thompson impossible to complete, either by Falk's deadline of May 29th, 2026, or the Bond Council's deadline. In addition, there are other issues with the Thompson property. These need to be resolved before we can move forward. Karst features need to be studied and remediated. There needs to be a large amount of dirt that must be removed. Relocation of high voltage power lines that Duke estimates 1.5 years to complete. And a road needs to be built from the Summit development onto the Thompson property. Even if everything goes well, we would be years away from breaking ground on Thompson and at a significant cost. And meanwhile, human lives and inmates are suffering while we wait. This doesn't include increases in construction costs also during that time period. The Fullerton Pike property poses concerns. It requires us before May 29th to complete a purchase agreement and to acquire a zoning change, again, by the City Plan Commission and City Council. Both are impossible. The property was only slightly less expensive than North Park to purchase, but it has less buildable area and will also require additional costs and time to complete stormwater remediation. It's also further from downtown than North Park, and there isn't a transit route at this site either. The County Council has only provided approval on 2 sites to date, Fullerton and North Park. Mr. Falk and the ACLU are focused on the construction of a new jail, not a full justice center. We intend to get the jail built as soon as possible. The jail administration offices, sheriff's office, and a few criminal courts are included. Once we are able to, based on the state legislature, we should proceed with the construction of the remainder of the Justice Center. And may I remind you guys, in the election, we just elected a whole swath of red people, red Trump state electors. These people are not going to give us any relief from criminal laws. They're going to put a more punitive slate of criminal laws before us. So the imperative to get this project done doesn't just relate to criminalization of homelessness and the cash bail bond amendment coming before us. We have 5 new people that stand to be elected in November that Trump put lots of dark money into the election to get into place in the primaries. we have to keep that in mind. Once we're able to, we should proceed with the construction of the remainder of the Justice Center. Co-location reduces security risks and overall costs in the long term.
And folks have raised questions and concerns about transit. We have the time to figure this out. Either we work with Bloomington Transit or we expand the bus service we already provide with rural transit shadow service. We can contract with a ride-sharing service provider when transit's not available to ensure that a person gets home or to Beacon or to whatever location they need to go to in Monroe County. This would actually be better than what we currently offer at the jail downtown. And think about it. We hear transit thrown around all the time. Is transit an issue that can be addressed, an issue that can be managed, more important than providing a community standard of care for people housed in the Monroe County Jail? The people who are not going to be at the microphone today are central to this issue. The people currently housed in the jail and jailers who face increased risk. If you truly care about creating a jail facility as soon as possible that can provide constitutional care and meet the level of community care we expect in Monroe County for people that are housed there, and you understand the potential risks and costs of a lawsuit are enormous and will impact every single taxpayer of Monroe County, we ask you to support this purchase agreement at the second reading on May 26. We did take this time to review things that you've already been presented, and I apologize for that, but we did so because there's been a lot of misinformation bandied about, and we need to make sure that we set the record straight for the public. We do believe you understand the issues. Mr. Cockrell, can you address the appraisal issue, please?
We, in accordance with state law, we're required to get 2 appraisals, and we're not allowed to pay more than the average of those 2 appraisals. The document before you, you guys, the appraisals are, once we received them, were put on file with you guys 2-3 years ago, and so we're required to not pay more than that.
And we also want to invite Sheriff Marte to come up and offer whatever comments he wishes to at the time.
Before he speaks, I would like to just make a comment.
Councilmember Hawk, just a
I'm
second,
going to
just a
finish
second.
this.
Councilmember Hawk.
I am.
The sheriff has been invited to the microphone, and there will be time for council to react to what has been said.
All I
There
am
will be time.
saying, the comment was made
There will be
to
time.
try to split up this council that's worked together, no matter what the politics, and that comment was inappropriate.
Sheriff Marte, the floor is yours.
Let me start by saying that for me, this has never been about politics. Never. When I took over 3 years ago, very transparent. I gave a PowerPoint and showed you what I was walking into and what was taking place. That was very intentional. Because I said then, and I'm saying now, time is of the essence. I know for a fact what I said at times bothers certain people when I said we're moving too slow. And I said it. Some of you might remember I said we're moving too slow. And it was intentional when I said that. Because as I'm walking into that facility day in, day out, and I'm looking at people that we're supposed to be taking care of, because this city, this county, is supposed to be a caring and giving county. If everybody saw what was going on in there, we would be embarrassed. Not everyone sees what goes on in there. Everyone has good ideas that they think they do, but those are opinions. I'm dealing with facts. The years of experience that I have around me of people that have done this for a long time, it's offensive to us that no one is listening to us to a certain degree. We are not going to make everybody happy. We're just not. I would, but we're not. 3 years ago, I know for a fact I gave a PowerPoint presentation. And here we are, 3 years ago, and here we are. Ken Falk came to the jail, gave a last tour. I invited the council members, and I invited the commissioners. It was intentional. Some of you came, some of you did not. He was crystal clear what he saw. And what he saw, he's correct, because I've been saying it from day one. We cannot provide the programs that is needed according to people that want to have high programs so they don't end up in that facility. But yet, when they do, we can provide the programs that we should be able to provide. The medical care, we can't even keep up. And it's not my fault, because I've done everything that we can. My staff has done everything we can. And when I came to you 3 years ago and I asked for help, and then again in 2024, I asked for help. If you notice, I kind of stayed away for a few meetings because I just couldn't understand what else can I say, what else can I do to have this body move on this. Now, North Park. To me, when I first started, it was Fullerton. Okay. It didn't work out because of the zoning with the city. Okay. And then, when we understood the challenges of Thompson, and when few of us went and spoke to the community in that area, and they were very crystal clear, we moved to North Park. So to me, I want to be crystal clear. It's not about North Park. If you could say tomorrow morning, I have another location that we could move right now, and I mean right now, that's the place I want to go to. In other words, I want to go to a place that's the fastest. And North Park is the place, And I'm going to say it again, we are not going to please everybody. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. But I can tell you this. Every minute, every day, every hour, there are people in that facility that not everybody in this room sees except for me and my staff. And I'm telling you, it's very difficult. I'm telling you, it's getting worse. It is getting worse. I can't tell you any more about the elevator breaking down. I just can't. I don't know what else to say about that. Now, because of the mold, for me to clean the windows, the bag that I showed some of you 3 years ago with the filth in there that some of you didn't want to touch, those windows now have to be cleaned professionally, which is going to cost $30,000. I can't save money now and do it myself because of the mold. So when people say, yep, you could go ahead and remodel that place, and no. I understand it's innocent when they say that. They don't understand the structure until you're in there, day in and day out. So now, when something else happens, which I don't know when it's going to happen, but it will happen, it's going to be me and my staff to deal with that. No one else in this building. Me and my staff. So yes, I stayed away from a few because I didn't want to offend anyone. I did not. But I've never gone to anyone's backyard and tried to tell them how to do their job. I have not done that. But people have done that to me, to my staff. It is offensive. It is. I wish I could please everybody, but I cannot. So, You have a tough decision to make. I understand that. Please remember, there are people in that building still waiting. And I do not want something dangerously to happen. And I have to come back here and sit here and explain to you what just happened, because I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen later. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week in that building. This is urgent. This is urgent. Now, if you have questions of me, I'd be more than happy to answer them. If not, I'll go back and sit down.
And we can take questions as well, any of us.
All right, great. I think this is what we're going to do moving forward, since Councilmember Crossley just arrived to the record. The way that I would recommend that we move forward is that we have a time for council members to ask questions. Then we go to the public and allow them time for public comment. And then we come back to council for a final round of questions.
And vote if we choose.
And yes, and just I want to make sure that we're prioritizing public comment and that we preserve the right to have a dialogue between council, commissioners, and sheriff. All right, Madam President, the floor is yours.
Thank you all. Mom duty's called, but here we are. Okay, so looking to, and by the way, I was listening via CATS, so I heard a lot, but I'll refrain for right now, but I want to look to my colleagues to see if they have any questions. Yes, Councilor Hogg.
Well, first of all, I want to have a comment for our sheriff, because as you know, this council has been many times bending over backwards to be supportive of our sheriff's department, of our deputies, of the jail and the jailers. When the commissioners were saying, we're not going to let you put lipstick on a pig, this council stepped up and said, we will make sure you get the money. All you have to do is come in. We will make sure you've got the money that you need to operate. And it seems to me that right now we have every council member here who wishes to proceed with building a new jail. So you shouldn't, in my opinion, be concerned that that won't go forward. Yes, once again, we are reminded that the sheriff's department, the courts, the commissioners at the time, the council at the time, had an offer to purchase that was accepted, but several $1 million less, to go to Fullerton Pike. That was when we had a different mayor and different people on the council. That changed over how many years ago? And I am told by the mayor, nobody has come to her to say, now maybe that's changed last week or so, but at the time, nobody came to say, could we move forward with Fullerton? If we had just grabbed the reins and started moving forward with Fullerton right there, we would have been, you know, the footers would be in, we'd be going. So it takes the commissioners, but it also takes the council. So at one time, the commissioners and the council both agreed on a location. That location was Fullerton. Now, if we could go to Thompson, then we don't have to pay money at all for the ground, but the repairs or whatever it take, I understand that'd take a while. But anywhere you go, you're not going to have a new jail to go to tomorrow. So we've got to figure out what's not just best for the jail and how that's going to operate, but for the community at large, and where is the best location that's going to provide the best services for the entire county and for the people that we serve there. So I just want you to know, we support you. We do. This council as a whole has supported moving forward. And so if we don't agree on the same location, I think we need to find one that we will agree on, and that's either Thompson or Fullerton.
Well, let me say it this way. I've only been here 3 years. There's some members of the council been here before me. This issue did not start when I came here. And I did say 3 years ago, let's move on this and let's move quickly. So the matter to me is not what happened with the commissioners and council. And I said that I don't want to be part of political football here. I want to be able to get this fixed as soon as possible. And if there's another location short of North Park that could do it tomorrow, then that's what I prefer. Something that we could move very quickly. Simple as that. There are certain things that I came to the council that I was denied. I'm not bringing that up. So what I'm saying very crystal clear right now, and I'm not going to get into that right now. This is not the place or time, but I will down the road and make it crystal clear what I was denied. However, right now the issue is speed, because if we'll keep going the same path. And 3 years ago, when I started, we're still here. Some of the councilmen was here before me. So I don't understand why is it now we're saying, okay, we all have to agree in the same location. We're not going to agree in the same location. We're just not.
May I also respond briefly?
Sure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate Sheriff Marte's words. We, as the Board of Commissioners, have supported the Sheriff's Department's contracts throughout all of this. And really, let's talk about, rather than pointing fingers, I think it's important to remember that this facility, especially if we are eventually talking about a co-located facility, requires everybody to work together. A lot of different elected officials and department heads have to work together, and that's the only way we're going to be successful moving forward. I also want to remind the council that when we talked to city planning, we were told that there is a 6 to 9 month window to get a planning zoning request through. That is their process, much like the county has a process. And even if that were shortened by 5, we're still talking about missing the deadline at the end of May. So it's, Mr. Falk requires that a site be selected. The other thing is we have talked through a number of things that are important to us. And no site is perfect. None of them are. But right now, all of our priorities, all the things we've talked about, proximity to transit and downtown and this and that, all of these things that we've talked about that are important to us, we now have that element of time that has become critical because of this pending lawsuit. And that one element has risen to the top of our priority list. And because time is going to be money if we don't make that deadline. Thank you.
So that, if I can, council members, I want to jump in here because specifically since time is money, and that was a question that you, or something you just posed, Commissioner Thomas, I guess, and not trying to play political football, let's punt to whomever, but in order for us to get to where we need to go, we kind of have to know where we came from. And this is to you specifically. I guess since time is money, how has it been that county government has sat on this for as long as we have and has had the ACLU extend throughout all this time, and nobody has said anything up until the moment when we took the vote October 28th. That's one thing. The other thing that I want to say is, yes, we did hear, in city planning back in February that they were saying approximately. However, I would like to say for the record though, we also heard you need to give us what you need in order for us to make this work. I've heard that in more than one ways. I've talked to more than one city colleagues and officials, and yet here we are. So I guess, when I hear you say that we all need to work, together, that's fine, that's great. I think that's the common denominator that all of us can say that that's something that we could have. But it's frustrating to sit here and say that to us when in January during our public meetings, we heard all along that North Park was a thing, even though back in October we voted it down. That was something that you had mentioned. And you know, the ball's in our court, the ball's in our court, the ball's in our court. Well, you know, we picked it up, we dribbled, we did what we needed to do, and then we passed it back to our colleagues who are on the same colleague team. And so what you did with that, I don't know. But my question that I would like to ask, since, and you know, and looking around, I know you've been around in county government, both on council and as a current commissioner, is how did we get to the point where, I guess I'd just like to know anybody. I don't know if anybody can answer this, because public has been asking, how have we sat on this for so long? I was not in government at all, only had one child at the time, now I have 3, and we're still sitting where we sat way back when. So can you explain to us and the public, for that matter, how does extensions keep getting granted? And why didn't we do anything in the first place?
I can answer part of that question, and I'm going to ask Mr. Cockrell to also address it because he's been here as well. I will say that the first settlement agreements related to caps on the number of people in the facility at any given time. And I was not privy to that as a member of council at that time. Now, there are a lot of things that have happened between 2009 and today, but I will disagree with the assessment that we suddenly appeared last year with a purchase agreement. This has been an ongoing discussion, interrupted by COVID.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Okay, that's what I heard.
Yeah, okay.
Because I heard, why is it suddenly now we have to do something? It's not sudden. There isn't a rush here. But what's happened is we have done the due diligence of working through properties, engineering reports, geotechnical, you know, all that good stuff, identifying, working through all of that, pros and cons of each one, meeting with neighbors, Broadview, Vernal Pike, and at North Park especially. But we've looked at way more properties than that. Fullerton, we didn't have to, there's only one neighbor, and that conversation was had. And those conversations were helpful and enlightening, and it helped us determine the kinds of things we need to focus on. And but no property is perfect. Now, we did community study. We did the report with Ray, the Ray report. Then there was COVID. And I will also say that it depended on which sheriff was in charge of that jail as well. How much did they bring to us as commissioners for remediation and remodeling, et cetera. But the fault lies everywhere. But between the Great Recession and COVID, I've consistently heard that it's too much money. And it is a lot of money. It makes my eyes water to think about how much money this is. And that's a huge commitment. And I get this is a big decision, probably the biggest you'll make as a council member. It's huge. I respect the gravity of that decision. But we right now are thinking about time. And Mr. Cockrell, did you want to add anything?
I guess I can maybe add a little bit. I would just start that Bill Steger handled the litigations back in 2008 and 2009, so I wasn't really privy to that. But, you know, look through our geo bonds that we have issued in the last, 15, 20 years. You'll see double bunking certain cell blocks as part of that. I mean, it's not like nothing was happening. I mean, things had been happening. We double bunked our things. We built in the mental health area, whatever it's called now. So there were things that were being done. I think the other thing I would say is really the ACLU started being a little bit more skeptical of us in 2019, which is what triggered the study, the Ken Ray study and the accompanying community assessment study. So, you know, that's when this all started from a ramp up from kind of the ACLU's perspective is in 2019. I remember being in a conversation with Mr. Falk who says, I think you've been using our agreed order as a crutch. And I don't think your facility is adequate. Maybe it is. Why don't you have a study done and show it? And so we've seen the study. We know what it says. And so that's really when it started ramping up from the ACLU's perspective, in my opinion. Okay.
I guess, just for the record, like, I want to also say, in terms of a rush, I guess what I mean by that is October 28th, we sat here close to midnight, we voted it down. We also kept hearing, again, as I said before, you said the ball is in our court, and so we did it. And then we answered the 5 questions. I guess it seems to be that if we really were truly on the same playing field, that after that moment, we could have all sat down and we could have had that conversation. And that's why members of the public feels that this is just a big rush. I understand that Falk is upset with us, but it's frustrating, and it kind of ticks me off that we are sitting here having to deal with things when folks back in 2021 kept going around and saying they were the last ones to be on board with this, and now here we are. That's the part that is frustrating to me. But I digress, and I'll go on. Yes, Councilor Iverson.
I have a statement and then a question. The statement is something that I think is brought up in one of the commissioners' remarks, is that this is indeed the first reading of this ordinance. The second reading of this ordinance will be on the 26th of this month. And so we wanted to make sure that we're speaking that into the minutes. So I'm glad that when we can have a more robust conversation about that, should we need to. My question to the commissioners is, in terms of costs associated with the bonding of this, we were given 2 options for what this facility could be. It could be courts and a jail with corrections, or it could also include sheriffs. So do we have any more clarity about which option the commissioners are leaning towards at this very moment?
Do you want to address it? Did you want? Okay.
I have it.
Okay, please.
So the intention, makes the most sense, was to option B, which was having the jail administration, sheriff administration, and this particular estimate is based on having 3 courtrooms also built out. And so just to simplify it, total cost based on sheriff administration, jail administration, 3 courtrooms is $157,816,702.
Did you say 157 million or 27 million?
157. That includes all costs. That includes the soft costs. Before we had the 127, that did not include the soft costs.
The idea for having some of the courtrooms there is to help for the security of the sheriff's department, so that criminal cases can be heard where the inmates are rather than moving them back and forth and keeping the courts all downtown. Now, there are going to be options. When we finally get to that point, there are going to be options, $1 million for redesign, because we're splitting the project in 2, but there are going to be options in the bid like there would have been before, relating to the size of the jail, whether the sheriff's department is there or not, et cetera. But it would have to include, we think, at least 2 courtrooms. So there'll be options like how many courtrooms and how large the facility is in terms of the bed count, et cetera. So that it's not a flat number. It is a number that you all will have to talk through, that we'll talk through with you, of course, but we don't have specific numbers yet. I mean, that's the thing. We haven't asked them to go to bid or anything yet.
That's
yeah.
the issue. So what happens is, you already know what our bonding capacity is. You guys attach that to your resolution. Nobody wants to bond at 170 million, which would be using up all of our cash. But we can, in fact, I believe, comfortably bond at 135 million, and then we are sitting on about 70 million in reserves in these particular funds. So the other thing to keep in mind is when we bond, we get the bond for whatever amount we think that we are going to want to have. And the tax rate is already in place. We are already collecting those dollars to pay the debt.
And I think I need to clarify something. We don't have $70 million in cash reserves in these funds, right? I mean, we don't have that, right? That is a number that's just not true.
Yeah,
What your report indicated was that there was a $135 million bonding capacity, and then there were two areas where it says cash available for project. You added all those up, it got to $170 million, and that was at that point in time. You know, we are collecting still, and we're not spending it all, so it's a little bit higher now, but it's certainly not 70, right? So
yeah, my mistake.
And that's based on your resolution.
I understand that. And in terms of getting to the place where we have a schematic design and we're getting into those architectural studies, I think is the intent that the building corporation is going to be the vehicle in which that's going to be completed in, or is it going to be like last time where we're having a bunch of meetings on this floor and we're going to be discussing all of those?
I guess the building corporation should not be involved with those kind of architectural decisions. That should be the funders and the commissioners, right? I think you guys are the ones who should play a role. The building corporation should function as the, you know, and I think I've explained this before, is their primary function is to be able to gather enough financing in order to fund a project without coming into butting heads with the constitutional debt limitation. It's something that the state legislature came up with a long time ago, and it's widely used. So the building corporation's function is not to make these kind of decisions. I think that is the sheriff clearly and his team clearly have a role to play in a lot of how particularly the jail and the sheriff's office is designed. And I think the council and the commissioners play a role for a lot of the other areas.
And much of this has been done. They have worked with the transition team and DLZ. So much of this has basically been designed. However, now they have to figure out how to cut this building in half.
I see what you're saying.
So that it can be co-located in the future, or not even, but either way, the building has to be cut. And there's a fee for that, and that's included in those soft costs. And I will note that, you know, we spent about $4 million on design to begin with, and so there's an additional cost because we're only doing a portion of the project, and that is something that we're not willing to spend the next approximately $1 million to finish a new design until we get the purchase agreement done.
Well, they won't
because
do it
we can't. We can't. Yeah, we don't have the property.
We have to have the property for them to finish the design.
Yeah.
I have no more questions.
I'm going to go to Council Member Wiltz, and then I'll circle back to Council Member Henry.
I just had a follow-up from some things I just heard, which is about the desire to have courtrooms on site and who is at the table making decisions. Because while my immediate thought is, oh, that makes sense that you would tack courtrooms on to make it convenient for everyone. Every single person that I've talked to who works in the courts, judges and defenders, prosecutors, I've talked to many people. None of them want that, and they've all actually said that would be, that there's no way they can see using that. And where's the disconnect, and have you had them provide input?
And that can be something that once we initiate the bond and we get through to the point of design, if that's a bid option you want, we can talk about that. But the question is the inconvenience of people who have to get in a car and go from one job site to another job site. If they're, for example, a judge, they would have to go to do court, or they could do it online. But they would have to, they're inconvenienced, and there's time involved, and there's transportation involved, so they may charge mileage, et cetera. That's one side of the balance sheet. The other side of the balance sheet is having the jailers having to maintain a part of the jail as operational here, and also having the jailers moving people every day. And I think that's a discussion we all need to have, but that's a discussion that needs to happen this year, but it doesn't have to happen now, but it is out there as an option.
I agree that it seems like a very undeveloped concept, just based on all the things that I've discovered in my conversations. But I also think that we're here to talk about a bigger issue. So let's.
Councilmember Henry?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Commissioners, for being here and walking through some of this. I had some questions I want to ask, but I kind of need to follow up on what I've just heard up here too before I get into it. And first I want to address the sheriff and saying that, I don't question any of the seriousness of what you've presented, the operational expertise your team brings to that building, the operating environment you've been in. But I think for me, it's always been the question of the jail, which is where you are, and where we get into these conversations that kind of grow off of them. The idea of co-location, the idea of all these other activities that are not really part of the lawsuit. It's always been about the jail and trying to get back to what that care is. And so I want to honor that. I know I can tell from the frustration that you have there, and to the extent that I've contributed to that, I want to honor that and apologize from this seat anyway if I've contributed to that agita on your staff in any way. But I got to pick up on this. I don't think the answer is for us to approve a bond and hand over the purchase agreement and all of the activities that move forward without establishing a different set of ground rules, because we just heard it. Councilor Iverson asked, well, who's the entity that's making architectural decisions? And you rightly asked, is it the building corp, which doesn't make sense because that's a fiscal activity. I think the community understands that we just built a convention center with the Capital Improvement Board that met very publicly and walked through requirements and dismissed requirements and explained the artwork even and what was in that space. And that's, I think, our public understanding of how one goes about building a multi-million-dollar project. That has definitely not been how this has gone up to this point. So when we have a comment that says, oh, well, we'll work on it or we're going to get to it, where are those requirements gathered, adjudicated, dismissed, or kept? Many of the public have asked for things that have been taken off the table. This council has asked for things through the CJRC and the JFAC activities that were taken off the table. And there was never an explanation as to why. Kind of similarly, that we went through a process from January until now, where we were meeting behind closed doors. The council had suggested properties in the city, of which have never been made public. But we went through a process in some way. But I think I would need at least a guarantee that says, how are we, and maybe that's the question, how would you answer that to say, how can we do it differently so that we don't relive the same process where we agree to a purchase agreement and then a few months from now, once the design comes back and it's considerably more expensive, for whatever reasons there may be, that we end up right back reliving last fall. I mean, how are we going to do this differently to make sure the public and this body is very aware of the requirements we're keeping and the requirements we're getting rid of? You're the project manager, right?
And I would say that in this instance, we have one of the largest projects I've ever been involved with, even though it's been cut in half essentially. And I've been involved in quite a few in my time in county government. And the process is, and as it should be, because initiating the bond is one thing, and I know that July date is in there from our bond council. It's not something we made up. And I think between July and December, and I know you have budget hearings in between there, but we have to talk through, we're going to have to talk through what amount we're bonding for. And if we're talking about what amount we're bonding for, we're talking about what's included and what's not, and what our hopes are. If you talk to those same judges, prosecutor, public defender, clerk's employees, you're going to hear that they want co-location, right? That's what you hear. We can't do it thanks to the legislature, right? But that's the bonding process. And Jeff, can you correct me if I'm wrong on any of that, or add anything if you need to?
I think I might add a little bit. I think the bonding process would kick off in July, but until the bond is finalized, which would likely be in November-ish, I don't remember the time off my head, the amount of the bond isn't set, right? And so part of your question is, it got out of control, it changed, I guess I have a little different perception, but that's fine, right? It did increase, and I don't think anybody doubts that. But the question is, how does the council, and their role is to set the budget, and so the budget gets set when, in this case, when the bond is approved, but we can't design to the approval without having some idea of what the budget you anticipate the budget to be. Does that make sense?
It does, except I would go as far as to say the budget needs to be more granular at this point, based on trusting but verifying the information that's been presented in this room up to this point. I appreciate that walkthrough, but it gets away from what I asked, which is when someone brings a requirement like whether or not an office needs to be co-located or not, it's the decision about that before the presentation of the product by DLZ to us to say, well, here's the design. It's the gray space. That's what I'm after. Commissioner Thomas, I read the Herald Times archive way too much. And back in 2008, when you first ran for office, you were as ardent as Councilor Wiltz when it came to alternatives for diversion programs, and you have chased some of those. Stride Center is a good example. I mean, there's been a history here. And so I guess for me, it's hard to sit across from you after your 17 years of august service, where you fought for these things early days, and now we're at a point where those things aren't in this facility, and I don't know why they're off the checklist.
Okay.
And so it's not even about relitigating that. I just want to know how we decide when something is proposed, why it gets jettisoned or why we're keeping it, and how to do that publicly.
Okay, so to answer both your questions, I would say that one of the things I would like to see us do is to combine our opioid settlement fund dollars from the opioid lawsuit settlements with the cities and put those things together and come up with a mental health substance use disorder facility, inpatient, outpatient, whatever we can do. And maybe Thompson's the site, or we can decide to sell Thompson. All of those things are things that we all need to work together on. The other thing I will say is that we don't have granular information about what the design looks like at this moment. We had it, but we don't have it with the courts sort of lopped off the side of it. So we don't have that, but we don't want to, and they won't do it, pursue that granular design work, which he said will take about a month to readjust things. Like you have to readjust HVAC and plumbing and all kinds of things until this purchase agreement is done. And at that moment, yes, we all need to work together to figure out what, when you put out that bid, again, you put out a range of items. And it may be that 3 of you want to see what it will cost to add another cord. And, I might say, well, what about this? And we put all of those things in that bid package as a range of options, right? 2 courts, 1 court, 1, in-house court, whatever it might be. Those are things that we will be talking about. I don't think there's anything that our office would be involved in terms of the jail or jail administration side. Certainly that's not our purview. So there are some issues of granularity that are not in our that there are issues of granularity that are not things that we are masters of and that we know enough about to be involved in. But you can clearly say, what about the size? What about this? What about that? Et cetera. So I think there are a number of issues that would have to be resolved. We'd have to have a range of items to go out for bid. Mr. Cockrell, maybe you want to add something.
I would just say, in some ways, it's a chicken or an egg thing, right? As somebody who's worked on this, if you gave me a budget, then I could say we could do this, this, or this, right? And we could work with our design team, and we could say, here are your choices, right? Or it's, what do you want in it? And then we could tell you, well, this is what each of these components cost. I mean, I guess from my perspective, what are people comfortable with? How do they want to proceed forward? Do they want to go with we want to know, I mean, I think we've said with that $157 million, which is scary to me, I'll be honest, number that we've got 3 courtrooms, we've got the jail administration, we've got the sheriff's office, and we've got the jail. Well, at some point in time, I think we would need to know what each of those components cost. And so, so we can trim that number down if necessary. And,
So I appreciate it, Jeff. I mean, so this wasn't really where I wanted to go, Madam President. I can't do project management 101 at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday. We build everything from a birdhouse to a battleship with an idea that there's a manager and there's milestones and timelines, and all that's very public and transparent. And it's something we still need to work on, because I'm talking right past the tables here. I mean, I really don't know how to get at that this evening. Let me get to the question of the council, which is really the fiduciary piece of this. And it was mentioned earlier because there was an article in the Herald Times asking about this. So I want to start off by saying that I'm going to ask some questions about valuation. And it's not about court cases and divorces. It's about how we got an appraisal on a property that's been presented in the purchase agreement, and I need to understand how we got here. So I'm going to ask some stuff about this. And the point of that is to help the public understand where the $5 million number came from on a property that is no longer going to be generating any economic benefit or part of it to the community. So that's what we need to ask, what we're being asked to purchase here. We had, and I appreciate that we've mentioned tonight, there were 2 appraisals. Those were offered to council. It's part of the resolution that we accept or at least entertain those or look at those. Those appraisals started, I believe, in 2024, late 24, and they were presented to the county in March and April of 25. I think that's the way I understand it from the sheet. One was March and one was April. Of last year. Does that sound right to Jeff? You're scowling at me, but Commissioner Medeiros
it sounds shaking. late to me, honestly, because I think when the council approved the original purchase ordinance for North Park, I believe they approved it in October of 2024. So those appraisals would have occurred prior to that time.
Okay, so we got appraisals are a year and a half or so stale, or at least understanding that. There's a really big thing that happened in that timeline between the 2 appraisals of the property, and this was the Advisio and the first appraisal group's assessment, and where we are now. And it happened in April of 25 when the Plan Commission in this room changed the PUD for some of the properties with Mr. Kreider to figure out how to simplify. I think that was the way it was put in the room, was simplify the PUD for the purpose of doing something with the balance of the property. In that room, I asked, and he was standing right there, I was sitting about here in Plan Commission, I asked him, first of all, is this something you want to do? And it seemed like that was affirmative. And I also asked him, who initiated the question, which I never got an answer on, if that was a council or county-driven question to change the PUD, or if it was his desire to change the PUD based on the fact that the county was interested in purchasing that property again. That's neither here nor there tonight. What's important is the timeline, because the appraisal was done at a time when both the appraisals had said that the valuation was based on commercial, multifamily, mixed use. That was Advisio. The first appraisal group said commercial or mixed use. And so when they were appraising the property at 11.75 or whatever, it was looking at comps of what like property in the county would generate that economic benefit, right? It wasn't a governmental use of the property. So we made it a governmental use by rezoning to create a government center at the PUD, instead of, a lifestyle center where one would go out and buy, mall type things, which was the original vision under the comp plan. And that's where I'm having a hard time with understanding the current value. And that's why I said what I said in the paper. So my first question on this is, well, and maybe for the public to understand this a little bit better, what we're really talking about is the land out there isn't just dry land that has a price tag on it. There's future potential value in that property because your county government has invested TIF bonds in that to build out infrastructure, had done a planned urban development around it, thinking that someday the North Park property would generate a whole bunch of tax revenue, income, or property for the county as a major exit point off an interstate. Now, when we put a jail on that, that doesn't attract anybody. No one's going to do that. And that's the challenge I'm having with the amount. So imagine a layer cake. First layer is the out-of-the-box yellow cake of, that's North Park. Put on the chocolate layer of the PUD, and then the toppings, the fondant, the frosting, that's your TIF bond. And when we start ripping that out through our process, it devalues that slice of cake. We lose some layers there. It's just the value is tied to the economic potential of that property. So where I'm trying to get to and helping me understand this, based on the actions of the county to change the development plan out there, is have we ever looked at an appraisal of it as a government property? What's its value otherwise? Isn't it time to take a look at that?
So I'll take a look at that. And I know, by the way, that case that you referred to in the newspaper article intimately because I teach it. So I'm happy to talk about that. I don't think the newspaper article reflected that case fairly or talked about the fact that that case actually rejected the $6,000 valuation. Nor did it mention that the property sold, 84 acres of that property sold to Bloomington Hospital in 2006 for $150,000. And so clearly the Bloomington Hospital is comparable to a jail site. That was not a particular commercial value either. But your question, was should the property's commercial value be relevant to government? So I think that is factually true. The fact that it is commercially valuable is true as a description of appraisal methodology, I think, but the framing of that question or the premise is incorrect. Appraisals generally assess fair market value based on highest and best use, not the buyer's intended subjective use. A government just doesn't get to purchase land at a discounted jail price because it gets to build a public facility there. So if the property's market value reflects commercial or mixed use development potential, then that's relevant to what a willing seller could command in the market. So I don't think there's a basis for the claim that a government use necessarily should be valued differently, and certainly we haven't ever made that claim.
Well, okay, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the cases used in divorce law or family law. I'm not really concerned with that. Here's where I'm at, Commissioner Madeira, on it. The highest and best use, according to the two appraisals, was commercial and mixed use. Mm-hmm. By removing elements of the PUD that would have encouraged that development and instead said now it's governmental use and a conservation easement, and by Mr. Kreider's own words would not be used for density, but in fact park space. Building using TIF bonds to build a road in, I know I'm going to lose everybody in the room, but it's important to say, is to say originally the road was for the purpose of building commercial things on it, and so now we have a TIF bond that funded a road that will go to a park, a jail, and that value of the bond is now a question here too. So what I'm trying to get at is I appreciate the highest and best value use appraisal concept. I'm not denying that. But what can be built there today is very different than what was appraised in 23 and 20.
Well, at the end of the day, we're stuck in the same position as any buyer would be, and we're stuck paying the same price. So if a Meyer wanted to go in there, we're stuck paying the same price as a Meyer would want to pay. And so we don't get a discount. There's no discounted price that the government gets, essentially, when they go in to buy a property.
Right? We've removed value through the PUD. If that's not the same value anymore, we've removed, this is a, I'm going to can it here in a second. This is the question, is that the county's actions have taken value from that property. It's interesting to say, well, if it did go on the market and we did build a commercial or residential properties there, that's where the valuation is. The only other comp I can think of in the past 2 years would be the county taking into inventory the 400 acres of Huntington Farm, which was valued much lower and is on state routes, but it will not generate revenue, right? But so when I say, have we looked at other government use properties in the county? The valuation of that particular property is very different. It was a question worth raising. I'm concerned that we don't have an up-to-date understanding of the value of that property, but I've taken up a lot of time. I'll turn it over to
I'll just say one more thing. I'll just say one more thing. On the 150,000 per acre in 2006 for Bloomington Hospital, that's a 46% increase if we're valuing this acreage at 219,000 in 2024. By any measure, Bloomington property values have appreciated far more than 46%. So let's by all means get another appraisal, and we'll see how much this property has appreciated today.
Yeah, I'm no expert on it, though. I know Councilor Hogg has sold a few things in her life, so maybe she can.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen. There could be another round of appraisals and the price goes up. It's not going to go down. The other thing is that there's nothing on this property now, and I do want to answer the question that was posed, because we get thrown questions and then, oh, don't worry about that. Mr. Kreider contracted with a developer and came up with a proposal for his revised PUD. The other thing I will say is that sometimes you put a Bloomington Hospital or a whole criminal, which our hope is in the future, justice center on a site, and it drives development as well. So there's two sides to that coin.
I'm going to move on, and I'll go to Councilor Iverson, and then I'll pop back to Councilor Wiltz.
Section 3.3 of the contract identifies that the Phase 1 environmental is no longer valid. How long is that going to take to conduct a Phase 1 environmental on this property?
Not very long. We set the period for review longer than, I think twice as long as we anticipated it would take to get the Phase 1 reevaluated.
Okay, great. And are there other evaluations we need to do on this property? Again, pending approval of the purchase agreement, all that stuff.
That's the important one. I think we were ready to close on it clearly last October until we weren't. So I think we had everything up to date. At that point, our Phase 1 would have still been good. And so I think this is just the one thing we need to make sure we get redone.
Right. And that's exactly why I asked it. In the intervening 5 months, has anything dramatically or good? Okay.
No, I think that our conversation about how we're doing this and the process, the issue that originally brought up, is baffling. And it just, anyway, I think it's an area that we need to work on. That said, I would really like to hear from the public, and I do not have any more questions right now.
I just got a couple more, and then we can move on. Since we keep invoking the city and we want to work with them, the question that I have is, because the noon edition that y'all did on Friday was very enlightening, and there were some questions that had been brought up, and again, members of the public have asked this question, and I continue to say y'all no say, and so I'll ask again for everybody. What is the transit plan? I know literally on my way here, I was hearing we have that, or, we can figure out that plan. But I guess we got to move from concepts of the plan into actual plans. And so I've heard Commissioner Thomas, there's this notion of Uber Lyft. So I guess, how do we work with the city on that? What happens if the city says no? And what is this contract plan regarding Uber Lyft?
Okay. So first and foremost, we can work with the city of Bloomington, which can, if it chooses, decide to expand the boundaries of Bloomington Transit. And again, with commercial development and housing and other things being added to that area, I imagine that would happen. But we also have rural transit shadow service, which is the urbanized area, not the rural areas, which is served by USDA money, but this is the money that you all have allocated. We used ARPA money. We purchased buses not knowing how much it turned out we needed them. And you've paid for this in the past to provide that bus service, including Ellisville, which has not contributed any money. We've paid for it as the county. This year, fortunately, INDOT decided to pay for it, which has been awesome, and I hope they do it again next year. So we can add a route. We can add to what we're already doing, right? The Uber Lyft is mainly for when transit isn't running. We don't offer it now, as though magically everybody lives within 2 blocks of the jail. They do not. And what I've learned from working with BT and their microtransit system is that it's contractually possible to establish a per ride contract with Uber and Lyft for those times when transit is not running. So a Sunday afternoon, if somebody is released, for example, that they would have that option at no cost to that person, but we take that cost in. And right now, I can't say what it's going to be when the jail opens because we never know. But right now, I think that cost is about $20 a ride. Right, I think it was $20 a ride, but that would get them anywhere in Monroe County for that money. So that's sort of that backup plan, right? I know that we are concerned about transit. We're concerned about distance, although this is closer than Fullerton to downtown, Fullerton Pike site that we've looked at. And I will say that, much like when we first talked about Fullerton, there was nothing there. There wasn't even a road there. There was an exit, but no roadway. And now look, there's a roadway. And what will come next? So you will see that other development will follow, and that will bring transit. It'll bring more activity. And if it doesn't, we will figure that out. That is a small problem compared to we need a new jail. And we figured out transit before, and we can do it again. And I think we should work with the city first and foremost on a route. But we know how much it costs because you all have agreed to the 13 line extension for this year, and that was pricey. And I imagine that would be a similar price point. In a few years, I don't know, but I would imagine that would be a similar price point. But we've worked with the city, Bloomington Transit, before. It can be done. So all of this is, we're not building a rocket ship, so it's not all that complicated, but we are taking it into consideration, and we are concerned about it. And I can leave that at that.
I think also we can come up with creative solutions and contract with our local service providers and win-win solutions where we help to fund them perhaps in paying for transportation. And that way we get people directly who need the services directly where they need to go instead of in a warm handoff, instead of relying on middlemen and transit. So I think that is actually what I would prefer to see.
So, no, I know we're not building a rocket ship. However, we are asking taxpayers to help us fund this. I understand that's like the little potatoes, like the transportation route is like the small ideas. But again, I keep hearing concepts of a plan. And if you're asking the fiscal body to do something that will have consequences for decades plus to come, I feel like we gotta have a little bit more of an idea of a plan. That's what I'm saying. And transportation actually factors into this entire thing because as it stands right now, there's no dang on transportation that's back there. So like we have to look at all different things. Again, I know it's mentioned before in meetings before, council needs to stay in the lane or whatever the case is. Well, I am,
And that's what we're trying to do here, because we're all trying to figure out how to pay for all of this. That's what I'm saying. So if we have, do we have any other? So
I was just going to for a comment, and it'll be very brief. So in our April 2025 Plan Commission meeting, the only abstention on the change to the PUD came from the surveyor, Mr. Enright Randolph, who brought up these concerns about transit in April of 2025. So this is where I have a challenge, where we can speculate in public about plans, but then those speculations have to become a thing. So that's I'll just trust what I've heard in the room today as movement or ideas that could move forward. But that was 13 months ago. Let's leave it there.
So I'll go to Councilor Hawk, and then I will, one second. I will go to Councilor Hawk, and then after Councilor Hawk, I do want to be respectful of public's time since they are here in person and virtually. So briefly, Commissioner Thomas, if you want to wrap it up, and then I'll go to Councilor Hawk.
Right. I just want to say that I would not institute a bus service now to North Park. So to talk about a plan for transit is part of a timeline. You know what it costs for the county and the city to share a bus line. It's the 13 line, right? So you know that cost. You know what we're paying for rural transit services, for the shadow service that we're doing in the urbanized area, right? So all of those things are part of it. There's no bus at Fullerton. There's no bus that runs to Thompson right now. But we would certainly, we know it's important, but we know it's important, and we would make sure that there was. And if you want to see a plan for that, I would say I would like to see a purchase agreement first, because a plan can be made for any property, right? But I feel like we researched all these properties, we did our due diligence, we did our homework, we shared everything publicly with the council. Then the council said, no, let's do it all again. And we did it all again. We did it all again. We reviewed our homework that we'd already done. And to say that not having a bus going to a farm field right now is somehow detrimental to what can be done, I would say we can do it. And if you understand, and you do understand the fiscal costs of bus services, you do know it. I know it. Let's work on that next. And I also want to work on mental health and substance use disorder treatment.
Yeah.
So a lot to work on.
Yeah, that was something that Kate Wilson and I actually talked about. All right, I'm gonna go. I really want to move to public comment now.
Thanks. That's what I'm all about.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
And all they've done is have to listen to us.
Sure.
I want to hear what they have to say. I do want to rebut a little bit about that transit, because there's 1.2 that we, when we start operating with income tax, we got 1.2 for county operations, we got 0.4 for fire or EMS, and we've got a 0.2 at the bottom that we could use for transit or for the library or for townships. Transit would love to see us do the whole 0.2 to them, but does that mean we don't help the library or any? And we can't even do the whole 0.2. We may have to cut it to 0.1 because we can only have 1.7 as a total. I'm not hearing that from anybody. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they think the sky's going to open up and drop money for transit. But I just think we need to know that. But please, let's listen to these good folks who take the time in their evening to talk with us. And as I know, they may all think that we're crazy, and that's okay, because we probably are after all this.
So we will go on to public comment. There is a public comment sheet at the lectern here in the Nat U Hill room. If you are making a public comment, again, please, since we got a lot, keep it to 3 minutes. Once 3 minutes is up, all of the monitors around here will have a timer, TSD. Please make sure we have that. State your name for the record. I'll do 2 in the Nat U Hill room, and then I'll alternate between
here and Teams. So if you have a hand raised via Teams, we'll call on you as well. I already see one that's already raised and like lightning round. Here we go. So again, if you want to make public comment, go ahead and start lining up so this can go on. And we already have our first one here. Again, state your name for the record and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Make sure you pull the microphone down. Thank you.
My name is Cheryl Langdon. I'm a Monroe County taxpayer. I live on Vernal Pike. I was there at the meeting that was held with the commissioners, and they explained to us we were absolutely against it. We have one neighbor who would have ended up having her house literally sitting in the middle of this when they were proposing that. And it was a Ellettsville, Bloomington, Chamber of Commerce, backroom deal, didn't include us, and I spent my time, my money, and canvassed not just on the outside of Bloomington city limits, but on the other side, because they would be affected as well. So I covered both people that are just county and city taxpayers. We weren't happy with that. We weren't happy with how it was just kind of snuck in. I understand that they're using the ACLU to bully us, to hold us hostage, to quickly find this. And I understand that we want to make sure that the welfare of inmates are taken care of, but the welfare of citizens, the taxpayers who are paying the bills, is number one. That's no ifs, ands, or buts there, because we are paying the bills. And having that jail where they were going to propose to do it, this Hail Mary at the last minute, would have brought a light pollution, noise pollution, traffic to neighborhoods right next to a park where kids play. So I think it's a lot more than just, the money and all of that. It's what that land is getting used for. So that was important about the value, how the zoning is done. We're literally a neighborhood of residents. So I wanted to point out that I feel that it's terrible that the ACLU is allowed to bully taxpayers to quickly make a decision. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up here in the Nat Yeho room.
Good evening, counselors. My name is Susan Easton. I'm a resident of the Stony Brook neighborhood, which I think you're aware of is adjacent to the proposed North Park site. First of all, I want to thank you in advance for your past support of voting against North Park as the new jail site, and ask you for your continued fiscal vigilance in that area and continue voting against it. I want to enter into the public record tonight an email that I sent to all of the county commissioners and this council group in early April. Dear Monroe County Board of Commissioners and Monroe County Council, we are writing to urge both parties to unify behind the Thompson PUD as the most viable, fiscally responsible, and humane site for the new Monroe County Jail. While we understand the commissioners' concerns regarding the unreasonable delay clause in the recent March 26th resolution, and we know there's been other resolutions besides the March 26th one, we believe the Thompson PUD offers the only path that reconciles the council's $118 million to $135 million budget with the modern constitutional care requirements that our community deserves. The Thompson PUD is the superior choice for 3 primary reasons. First, fiscal stability. Unlike the North Park proposal, which requires now greater than $11 million land purchase and significant new utility extensions, the Thompson site is already in county hands. Using our local income tax and economic development income tax reserves to fund the cleanup of the debris pile is a far more efficient use of taxpayer dollars. than the $50 million budget gap currently stalling the North Park plan. Secondly, accessibility and social justice. The North Park site is essentially a suburban island, disconnected from public transport, as we heard earlier here this evening, and legal services. The Thompson PUD is located on a Bloomington transit route and the Beeline Power Line Trail. This ensures that families, public defenders, and those re-entering society are not further marginalized by a lack of transportation, a key factor in reducing recidivism and helping improve future public safety. And thirdly, concurrent progress versus sequential delay. Concerns regarding the Duke Energy power line should not be a deal breaker for us. Given the 40-acre footprint of the Thompson site, construction and site grading can begin on the unobstructed portions of the land while utility relocation happens simultaneously. Engineering 101 for some of us.
And that is your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up I'll go to the two individuals on team, and then I'll kick it back to here in the Nat U Hill room. So again, the screen name Richard Garza. If you are able to unmute, again, state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. My name is Richard Garza, and I worked in the Justice Center last summer, and I am here to implore the council to approve this purchase agreement. It is incredibly irresponsible and not caring to deny this. Enough is enough. It's been almost 20 years. There are people who are working in harsh conditions. There are people who have to live there in harsh conditions. And if it was not for this lawsuit and the ACLU and the Constitution, I imagine the county would do nothing to improve the situation of those who have to work there for their careers or those who are there as incarcerated individuals. Again, I implore you to do the caring thing, stop delaying, stop kicking the can down the road, approve the purchase agreement. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Peyton Prospel. Again, you should be able to unmute, state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Okay. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share a comment today. My name is Peyton Prospel, and I'm a staff member at New Leaf New Life. I am the Read to Me program coordinator, and I facilitate the reentry class at the Monroe County Jail with help from volunteers. Read to Me is a program where incarcerated individuals are able to connect with their children through reading. I interact with many different people, and Read to Me becomes a staple for many when it comes to staying connected with their family and looking forward to their reentry. When working closely with incarcerated individuals, I see how eager people are to discuss resources and coordination with their reentry. I also see how reentry planning is already a struggle for many. They deal with different types of discouragement, whether that be due to the uncertainty about when they'll be released, where they're going to go, and how they're going to get there. It takes a community to help someone support someone with their reentry. By having a jail built in North Park, it complicates their access and can lead to more discouragement for them to have a successful reentry. It also makes it harder for them to be able to access community resources to support them during their release. I stand with New Leaf New Life in the stance of being opposed to the building of the North Park Jail. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we'll go to here in the Nat U Hill room. Again, if there's other people that have their hand or would like to make public comment on teams, go ahead and raise your hand.
Hi, my name is Heather Bland.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm representing New Leaf, New Life, and work closely with individuals impacted by incarceration, substance use, mental health challenges, and reentry into our community. We stand opposed to the new jail at North Park because we believe we're being asked to invest millions of dollars into a system that addresses the symptom rather than the root causes of incarceration. One of the biggest concerns of North Park location is lack of access to resources. When people are incarcerated far away from treatment providers, social services, transportation routes, attorneys, family support, and community programs, it becomes even harder for them to successfully reintegrate into society. Isolation does not improve outcomes, connection does. We already know that many people entering our jail system are struggling with untreated mental health conditions, substance use disorders, poverty, homelessness, and trauma. Expanding a jail without equally expanding meaningful treatment and prevention services risks continuing a cycle that's failed people for way too long. Imagine what would happen if even a portion of the funding for this project were directed towards solutions that actually reduce incarceration in the first place. We could invest in addiction treatment, mental health care, supportive housing, transportation assistance, workforce development, crisis responsive teams, and reentry services. These are the kind of investments that create safer communities long term. As someone who works directly with people returning from incarceration, I can tell you that stability and support are what reduce recidivism, not building a bigger, larger, newer facility. A jail should never come before the primary response to unmet social and behavioral health needs. If we truly want to improve public safety, we must prioritize rehabilitation, treatment, and prevention over the expansion of incarceration. I ask the council to carefully consider whether this project reflects the future we want for our community. We have an opportunity to invest in people instead of investing primarily in confinement. I hope we choose solutions that strengthen lives, strengthen families, and strengthen our community as a whole. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Eric Spoonmore. I've been here before to talk to you about what I thought some of the human consequences were for putting a jail at North Park. Now tonight, I want to talk about some of the numbers behind that. And I know Commissioner Thomas mentioned she didn't have specific numbers, but I do have specific numbers that I want to present to you all because I know you all care about numbers. So the proposed purchase price is approximately $11.3 million for 52 acres, or about $219,000 per acre. The figure deserves serious scrutiny before the County Council commits taxpayer dollars to this purchase. When we look at other Indiana counties who have recently moved forward with jail or justice center projects, the comparison is striking. Allen County, which faced a similar ACLU case, purchased approximately 140 acres for its new jail site for $6.3 million, or about $45,000 per acre. That property also included a large existing building on it. Marion County in Indianapolis acquired approximately 140 acres for its community justice campus for $4.2 million, or about $30,000 per acre. Vigo County, which also faced a similar ACLU case, moved forward with land for its jail project at approximately $900,000 for around 22 acres, or roughly $41,000 per acre. So the question for taxpayers is straightforward. Why were Allen County, Marion County, and Vigo County able to acquire land for jail or justice center projects at roughly $30,000 to $45,000 per acre, while Monroe County is being asked to pay approximately $219,000 per acre? That's about 5 to 7 times more expensive per acre than those comparable Indiana jail land purchases. For families in Monroe County, the median household income is approximately $66,000. That's what an entire household lives on for a year. Under this proposal, the county would spend the equivalent of more than 3 years of median household income for each acre of dirt. And that's exactly why this decision deserves more scrutiny. At a time when residents and workers are struggling with housing costs, taxes, childcare, utilities, and everyday affordability, it's difficult to justify paying a land price that appears dramatically higher than what other Indiana counties paid for comparable jail projects. And I understand that Monroe County has unique challenges, But the common refrain that Monroe County is unique cannot become the default explanation for why everything here always seems to cost more for our people. At some point, local leaders have to push back on that pattern and demand clear justification. Every unnecessary dollar spent on land is a dollar that cannot go toward public safety, mental health services, substance use treatment, staffing, infrastructure, housing, or economic development. So given the scale of this project, I respectfully urge the council to take the time needed to ensure taxpayers are not being asked to absorb an unavoidable cost. Please insist on stronger justification before approving this purchase and make sure Monroe County is not once again accepting a cost that other communities somehow manage to avoid. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, I only see one hand on Teams, so screen name Nicole, you should be able to unmute, state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Nicole Myers, and I just am wanting to ask the council again to vote no on North Park. I don't know a lot about how local government works, but I'm actually surprised that you guys can be asked to vote again on the same thing when it seemed like it was decided back in October. So I just hope that you'll vote no again today. I feel like we've heard from some folks that live near the North Park site, and that don't want the jail built there. I live in Broadview near the Thompson property. I really don't think we need a big giant justice complex anywhere, but I still feel like the Thompson site is a better choice than North Park. Building a jail out there on a big 4-lane highway is just dangerous and just seems like a terrible idea. So, and also just the idea that in general, Bloomington's been working toward more density, which is just good for the community in lots of ways. I feel like this sprawling justice complex is just the opposite of what we've been moving towards in so many ways. So just asking that that you vote no on this and that we can look at something different. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other members of the public on Teams that would like to speak? Again, raise your hands. Seeing none as of now, we'll go ahead and move back to, before we move back here, we just got a hand that popped up. So Robert Freeman Day, again, state your name for the record. You'll have up to 3 minutes, but you'll also need to unmute first.
Hello, this is Robert Freeman Day. I just wanted to put out that if we're looking to communicate and work with folks that are, community support areas like New Leaf, New Life, or the city of Bloomington itself, I think that we need to listen to the input of them. And so I'm just kind of putting it back to, if they're expressing a little bit of concern and opposition to the North Park, I think that the council should be definitely considering that. That's really all I had to say. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move back here.
Good evening, Council. I thank you for the opportunity to speak and also for wanting to involve the public. I have 5 points that I'd like to make, so I'm going to try and make this quickly. First, I want to begin by responding to some of Commissioner Medua's comments regarding what the state legislature could do with these potential new Republican Trump candidates. I think it's inappropriate to try and state what a legislator and a lawmaker is going to do when they haven't even won a general election, because running on a platform and actually doing something in office are two different things, and I think it's important that we recognize that. And then secondly, to Commissioner Modillo, when she said it's irresponsible if we do something, I believe that this is one of the least fiscally responsible things the council could do. So I would just respectfully disagree with that claim completely. And to my second point, I now like to respond to some of Commissioner Thomas's comments. I'd first like to make a quote of Commissioner Thomas regarding the transit. Quote, "We have time to figure this out," end quote. Why should we vote on something when we can figure it out later? I feel like as a human, I want to know exactly what I'm going to vote on before I'm going to do it. When I thank many council members that asked about the transit, and I wasn't able to get any response. And regarding at one point when Commissioner Thomas brought up the idea of this being a farmland bus route, logically, if we were to do this North Park, which I am no way stating we should, we wouldn't have a bus route that would go solely from downtown, say the bus transit center, to North Park and then come back. That makes sense to absolutely nobody. I will say on my way here, I was going from 10th Street to the courthouse. I was late to the meeting because I couldn't get a bus that got me there on time. Logically, we would not have a bus route with a single location. And furthermore, while we can get a bus route out there, we have bus route 13, it is just not logical. And then I would also like to thank and further restate a point that Councilor Henry made when Commissioner Thomas has been in county government virtually the entire time that this lawsuit has been done. I still don't know what has been done to say that, oh, we had COVID and we had these other problems. The lawsuit still remained during COVID and we didn't do anything. I'm gonna have to speed it up here, I'm running out of time. Thirdly, I would just like to say that this location just sucks. And I would also like to add that government is about collaboration. I heard many commissioners say this, but then why are we going to vote on the exact same thing twice? I haven't seen any differences. Fourthly, very quickly, I would like to thank Councilor Wiltz's thoughts about co-location. And that if the people that work there don't want it, why are we doing it? And then fifth, very quickly, in regards to the city and Commissioner Thomas's thoughts there, we have a new mayor and 5 out of the 9 city council members were new after the 2023 elections. So that's a new thought. You can hear more from me later. Thank you, council.
You did well, thank you.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Yes.
Oh, yes, Kaden Smith, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up here in the room, again, state your name for the record and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Am I ready first?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Yep.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Jessica Groves. I have 3 points to make. I'm a mom and a resident. You've seen my kids running around and crying. I live in the neighborhood right next to that area, the proposed area. First of all, I want to say I'm not opposing the jail. I want to thank the sheriff for being a compassionate person and caring about the inmates. I care about that too. But I have a family. Our neighborhood, have you driven through our neighborhoods? There's kids running around. We have block parties. We have Easter egg hunts. We walk at night. I don't even lock my car. We live in this safe neighborhood. You just seen how many kids we have. Only in our cul-de-sac, we have like 30 kids. And we're always playing outside. We save so much money to buy our house. We put in a pool this year. And now doing this is gonna affect my property value. Now, I'm not gonna be able to sell my house. If I ever wanna sell my house, that's our biggest investment. So I feel like, and my third point is $200 million. Like, that, someone making $60,000 a year will have to work 4,000 years or 3,000 years to make that money. And we're just talking about like, oh, we'll see, I don't know. I know, this is, honestly, it's heartbreaking. I work for a school. Sometimes we don't even have paper. We don't have pencils. And we're just talking about $200 million just like that. We'll see, we'll figure it out. Honestly, it's so sad. As a resident, as a taxpayer, it's so sad. I thought about this house, our neighbors, being my forever home, but if this happened, I know my family, some of our neighbors, we're just moving. We're gonna find another community. We'll probably move to Fishers, somewhere else, but we're not staying here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't see any hands raised via Teams. So while we wait for more hands to light up on our team screen, I'll keep going back here to the Nat U Hill room. So please.
I have a special request. I'm not able to see the countdown of the 3 minutes. Is there any way that Jeff McKinnon always was so kind to turn his computer around?
And if it helps, Mr. Davis.
But I'm addressing all of you council members. I don't want to be turned head like this.
Do you want me to give you like a 30-second warning? Tell me when you want me to tell me your time is almost up.
1 minute and then 30 seconds.
1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Good evening. My name is Joe Davis, and thank you, council members, for hearing my comments. First off, I want to say I strongly encourage you to not move forward on the purchase of the North Park property. It doesn't make any sense at all. As an independent candidate for county clerk for the circuit court, and also while campaigning during the primary, I had many conversations with individuals who do not wish for the Justice Campus to leave the downtown area. As a matter of fact, that translated into 2,545 or 49 votes for me. Many of those people felt this strongly. This is my constituency already established. It makes no sense. There's a sunk cost fallacy. You know, like, we should not throw more money, bad money, at this project, at this architectural design that came from Sprawl State, an architectural firm that devalues the cost of the land because they come from Arizona or the Southwest, where land is dirt cheap. Okay, it makes no sense. We have the possibility of developing something, keeping the jail, the Justice Center, still downtown. The ideal spot would have been where the expansion of the convention center is happening right now. And if you ask me, that frame would be a great start to a new jail. But right next door or close by is the Hopewell area where the former hospital site was. The least buildable site right now for those homes is the one where the actual hospital was on top of the hill.
You have 1 minute remaining.
This is a very logical place for the Justice Campus to be built. There's already a parking garage. It is shovel ready. There is no need to put in a water treatment plant. It's already hooked up to the sewer. All the infrastructure is in place. The city of Bloomington is responsible primarily for the individuals who are being housed in the jail. They offend in the city of Bloomington. It's not the county people who are doing it, it's the people in the city. So the city should pony up. There could be a land swap, which could take place, and then the county could use that property to build a multi-story jail. This could be the jail on the bottom, the courts on the second level, with ramps to be able to get the individuals up just in case their elevators would break. There could be community justice above. Above that, even there could be an exercise yard where those inmates could look out over the city of Bloomington and be inspired to get their act together and get out of there. So please do not go forward with this. We have the opportunity to find something in town that is going to serve us better. Thank you very much for considering these comments. Again, please do not move forward on this purchase. Thank you.
Thank you. Still seeing no hands raised via Teams. We'll still keep coming back again if folks have their, want to make public comment in their own teams, again, raise your hand.
Good evening. My name is Seth Muchler. I'm a resident of Monroe County. I know many, and I think I know all, I know all of you, you know that I like my prepared remarks, but I'm trying to speak from the heart today. I know I have said to you before that I do not envy all of you. You have hard jobs. You have to make hard decisions. And even on the easiest day, your job is hard. And I know this is not an easy day. There are a lot of factors here. I know that your job is to take many different constituencies, many different influences, many different things, juggle them all and make the best choice you can. I also know that we elected you to do that and to do the hard thing and to make the right choice. I know that it has been said many times that if we don't do this, that we're gonna get sued. And that might happen. I can't say it won't. I can't say it will, I can't say it won't, but it might happen. But that doesn't mean we make mistakes out of fear, and that doesn't mean we do the wrong thing, even if we think we might be doing it for the right reason. We step up and we say, I'm gonna do the right thing. And we all know North Park is just not the right place for a jail. We could talk about big picture. I've had many conversations with all of you. You know, I could go for more than 3 minutes, 3 hours about all of the reasons about criminal legal system and all of this, but like the decision at hand is North Park. And we just know it. You all voted last year no on North Park. The city council has said no on North Park. The community says no. So everything else set aside, we just know that we can't make this choice. We can't say yes to no North Park in order to save ourselves, because we're just setting ourselves up for decades of hurt and for decades of the wrong decision. And I feel that we will as a community regret it. And so I'm just gonna ask you, I'm gonna thank you in advance for making the hard choice, for even when your backs are up against the wall, looking out for your constituents, and I hope that will end up in a no vote on North Park. Thank you again for all the work that you do and for your public service.
Thank you. Okay. Like we have a hand raised via Teams. So screen name Kathleen. You can unmute, state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
My name is Kathleen Paquette. I'm a longtime Bloomington and Monroe County resident. I just really wanted to second everything that Seth Muchler just said. And I think I also just really want to make it very clear, especially to the public, that we have all talked at length and heard a lot about all of the reasons that North Park is a bad location. And what we're talking about now, like back in October, you all voted against North Park as mostly based on concerns with the cost and the location. And if we're talking about phasing this project now, we're talking about a higher cost. So what you all voted against in October was the cost and the location. And now we're looking at the same location at a higher cost. So to me, the choice here seems obvious, but I also really want to, like Seth said, I know that you all have like such difficult jobs, and this is a really hard thing, and the threat of a lawsuit is really scary. But yeah, I also just really want to second that we shouldn't make these decisions out of fear of what might happen in a way that's going to deeply, deeply affect our community for decades to come. And I would really like to see more finances invested in things that actually make our community better rather than a larger jail. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and work.
Thank you. Next up, we'll come to back to the lectern here in the room.
Yes, my name is Jeff Richardson. I have no position on what site you select ultimately. I just want to clarify, as I did last time when I briefly spoke to you, ACLU is not the enemy. They are not the Antichrist. They did not cause this to happen. And President Crosley, I'm glad you, although it's well known, I'm glad you asked for that repetition. How did we get here? Some of you may remember, Marty, you're from my generation, Jamie Murphy, who was a big presence back in the 60s and 70s, and she talked about againers. I'm against this, I'm against that, I'm against this. We have a lot of people against certain things over the past 17 years, and only recently now is it some clarity around what we're for. But that's how we got there, a lot of againers, and we've got to somehow turn that around. I was encouraged by the photo that went around with you, President Crosley, Isaac Azare, President of City Council, Julie Thomas, of course, who we all know, and Mayor Thompson. And I sent it around to many, many people, and I said, hope abounds. And so I'm curious to know, this is a question for you folks, what happened? What is happening between meetings? What is the plan? We know what a lot of people are against, and I appreciate that. And I've been against a number of things, but I also feel in my life I've tried to also come up with a solution, like a plan, or at least a pathway to a plan. So my plea, once again, is what is happening between meetings? What is the plan? What is the plan for the plan? And how can we best move forward? Working with the commissioners, working with the mayor, working with the city council to get this done. Again, it bears repeating, I think, when I'm going to my plea again is we can do this, and I hope that you folks come up with a plan sooner rather than later. And thank you for your hard work. And I would echo what the young man just said earlier. This is what we hire you to do. These are complex, multi-layered problems, but that's why you're elected, and I wish you all the best moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up in the room, again, sign your name, state your name. For the record, you'll have up to 3 minutes.
My name is Christian Easton, and my wife was up here earlier. She's very well prepared. I'm not. I wasn't going to say anything, but I've sat here and listened to a lot of rhetoric, just things that are going on. It doesn't sound like there's been a really good plan for years. That's just my opinion. I started out in law enforcement in 1970 after I got home from the Army. I can remember the old building down on South Walnut Street. It had been down there since the turn of the century. They were still using it. We maintained it. It was cleaned up every day. We took care of the building. Right next door was a jail. They took care of that building forever. We built the new one. Myself and another officer moved everything out of our police department into the new place for Bloomington Police Department, which used to be down on the bottom floor. I can't believe that when Sheriff, you took that place over, I saw what it looked like. There's no reason for that. It was not your fault, but that needed better maintenance. I think that rather than spending money on a whole lot of other things like buying property all over the county and still looking for another piece of property to buy, we ought to fix the jail and get, or at least build one and take care of it. And spend the money, try to spend the money on maintenance in the future, because these buildings ought to last a lot longer than that building lasted. I think it was I can't remember the exact date that they built that. But it's less than 50 years old. And I'm a little older than that now. And I'm still going to make it for a while longer. And I'm taking care of it. Okay? So I'm asking you all to do the same thing. Get a plan. If you own property somewhere already, this is my argument to begin with. Why are you still shopping for property? You got property. You had an opportunity to already make a decision to build on that property. If it's down to crunch time now, you should have already got started on that. Okay, so I'm for the sheriff having the best facility he can have. The people need to have the best facility they can for the people that are in there. They're not all bad. I served as a minister in that place as a police officer. I would go in and do Sunday night services there, prisons and stuff. I've had a lot of good people. A lot of good people. I met some really bad people. They need all of the courts and all the things that need to be in that facility need to be there and not taking everybody on a tour all over your community, because these guys are at a greater risk when they hit the Sally Port and are transferring criminals in and out. And that's where the accidents happen. That's where the attacks happen. And if we can just keep this design that was here in Bloomington was a great design. And they researched it very much before they built it. They just needed a little better maintenance. So that's my take on it. That's my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Still, again, raise your hand via Teams. I'm going to go back to the room here. So again, if you're on Teams, please raise your hand.
Hi, my name is Stacy Dosky, and I am here to thank you for the support that you've given us in rejecting the North Park site. I am begging you to please continue to hold fast to that decision and to support the community. I feel that it is an injustice, one, that you're having to go through this again with the public and have another vote and all of this, to have commissioners tell you that we have to do this. I don't understand how something can be done backdoor or whatever, under the carpet, all of a sudden it's going to be pushed through without the public being involved in that. That's not my understanding of the way government works. I will say, regarding the jail, I feel for the inmates there, the employees who work there. They should not have to work in those types of conditions. Back to what Chris was saying, take the money, invest in what you have, do maintenance. We can't just buy things and let it go. We have to continue to invest in the positions and the properties, what we have, spend the money wisely the way most people would. Don't just buy a house and get rid of it when I needs a new roof and go do something else. Remediate the mold, do those types of things. Spend the money the best. We don't have a community that has a lot of money. We just don't. Where are you gonna get all this from? You're gonna put it out forever and ever? I mean, I wanna know, honestly, who's getting a kickback here? Why does this keep coming up? The same people are getting offered, oh, it's their property, and then they're getting offered to do all these different things. I don't understand. I don't understand how this keeps coming around and what the problem is. Again, we need to address this. We need to address the jail. It needs to be taken care of. Use the money to maintain it. Do not, I beg you, go to the North Park site. It is not the best use of our finances, of our money, anything for the community. That site, like Councilman Henry was saying, we could get all kinds of revenue. We could make money from that location. It is a prime location for all sorts of different types of activities that will be bringing in money to our community, bringing in services, all sorts of different things. So think outside of the box, find a different way instead of just buying more property to start something else that you're not going to maintain it because you don't have any more money anyway. So 10 years later, we're going to be in the same position. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just insane. There's no way that we can't utilize the land that's there to add more, clean up what we have. I guarantee you it's not just disposable. Clean it up and use it. Thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate the support that you have given us, and I apologize that you're having to revisit this again.
Thank you. Anybody else here in the Net U Hill room? Oh, hello. Again, sign in your name, state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
My name is James Hovius.
And if you could speak into the microphone so it can pick it up in Teams land.
My name is James Hovius, and I just walked in. I've been to a few of these meetings in the past as this thing's kind of rolled on over the years. And I think I'm probably going to echo what other people have said, kind of about fiscal responsibility, transparency. You guys, specifically are looking at this site that is overvalued. You're going to pay too much for it. Former Superfund site. As an adjacent property owner with a well, I would have to test my water before I could drink it. But you're going to build a facility here? You find issues with all the other properties. Oh, there's dirt piled up here. We can't surmount that. Oh no, this one's got, some other issue. There's literally just a litany of issues with North Park, right? From the lack of infrastructure, from bus lines. And from my point of view, I see you guys looking at these problems in the future, no support, no infrastructure. You're going to solve those problems with more taxpayer money. Again, you guys bought the Thompson property specifically for a jail. How about we follow through on that, right? How about we treat government the way we treat private enterprise? I've built bridges and roads in this state for 27 years. And if I sucked at my job as much as I see some of you guys suck at yours, I wouldn't have a job, right? So how about that person who decided to pile up all the debris on the Thompson site rather than prep it for the jail that we knew we were going to need? How about that person gets their walking papers and clean it up and build it where it goes, where it's supposed to go? That's it.
Thank you. Very much. All right, next up in the room.
Good evening. Thank you, Council. My name is Andy Klein. I'm a property owner in Stony Brook, also a public school teacher, and have financial responsibilities as a public school teacher for the school system that I serve. And I would challenge you, listening to this evening and listening to the conversations over a year ago at the Ellisville Fire Station. I know Councilman Hawk was there, Commissioner Thomas was there, that the challenge for you to work together with the commissioners. I think you need to take a step back, because it bothers me when I heard Commissioner Thomas talk about we got to come up with ideas and we got to figure out ways to cut this, but you have no dollar amount that you're talking about in setting a bond. And I know a little bit about bond and bond counsel with my job. So when you issue a bond, correct me if I'm wrong, counsel, you have 3 years to spend that money, correct? 5. 5? Okay, I am limited to 3. But I would charge you to make sure you know what you are bonding and what you are spending your money on. Because as the taxpayers are going to be dealing with this, you're also dealing with the impacts of Senate Bill 1, and I'll allude to the fact of the other commissioner, I apologize, I don't recall your name, impacts of the elections coming up in November. What may or may not happen, Senate Bill 1 is still there. And with the homestead credits and the impacts of those, the $300 that we're all getting back, I didn't see $300 on my property tax that I paid just the other day, but that's going to have an impact as well. So I would ask you to consider those things as you are going through this. I'd also ask you to have a further discussion with the commissioners about, they talked about design, bid, build. Why don't you do build, occupy, transfer, that model? And I corporation who's building a $100 million school up the road under build, occupy, transfer. And if it comes in over cost, it's not the school that's paying for the extra cost. It's the person who said they would build it for $100 million. And I would ask you to think about those things as well. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who have yet to make public comment on this item? Again, you could come forward to the lectern here in the room, and then, or rather, you can raise your hand via Teams. No? All
right, last call via Teams. Seeing none, and last call in the room. Oh, sorry, I just saw a hand go up. Okay, screen name Matt Jacobs, state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes. And then you also need to unmute. Sorry.
Maybe?
Yes, we
All
can
right.
hear you now.
Okay, cool. Again, I think you all heard most of the comments are going to be echoed. Here we are, almost 20 years into this, and the $219,000 an acre. I don't know, has there been any kind of a study done about maybe moving the courtrooms back to the original courthouse and expanding the jail where it's at and renovating that to see what that cost is? And then, I understand there's still potentially a transportation issue to get prisoners across the street, but there's several options for that. I mean, we're building the Skyway right now for the convention center. Sure, that could be an option. And then so just down the road from there was industrial commercial property that, with utilities ready to hook onto it, at $75,000 an acre. I believe is the old Westinghouse site. After obviously just, as we all know, pay property taxes that have went up a lot. I still just don't understand how it's even feasible to think about $219,000 an acre for an old quarry hole. To me, that's just insane. And then I think, as I look at attendance here, I think that there's maybe some council members that are not there this evening, but I just think it's important that as elected officials that everybody stays transparent and stays, when you're making the laws, you're still not above them. And then also, I do want to thank the sheriff. He is a very compassionate person, and this mess should have already been handled before he was ever elected, and it's really unfortunate that he's having to deal with it, and all of our law enforcement. I know just a few weeks ago was a crazy weekend, but that's really all I have. It's just, if it was your money in your bank account, would you spend $219,000 an acre? I know we got to get these inmates some better facilities, but I think there's a lot of buildings around where things could be moved around, and that don't come with that kind of a price tag. And that's all I got. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. Looks like we got another hand raised via Teams. Curtis Cummins, you should be able to unmute, officially state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening. My name is Curtis Cummings, and I'm a Monroe County resident. I also work professionally in public service and human systems. I'm in and out of the jail on a weekly basis. I'm also in and out of the courtrooms on a weekly basis. So I really understand that the county's facing obviously real pressure regarding the jail situation and the ACLU concerns. But I want to begin by acknowledging that the constitutional jail conditions do matter. Staff safety matters. The dignity and safety of incarcerated individuals matter. Monroe County does have a responsibility to act, but I believe that tonight's discussion is bigger than simply a jail decision. This is a long-term land use and economic development decision that will shape Monroe County for decades. My concern is not whether the county needs to address the jail. My concern is whether North Park is just too strategically important to become only a jail. North Park may represent one of the county's most valuable future development corridors for retail, restaurants, mixed-use development, jobs, long-term tax-based growth. As I've heard council members talk earlier, the jail is a permanent land use decision. Once it's built there, the county loses flexibility for generations. And I worry that we may be unintentionally conflating two separate ideas, the urgency to act and the urgency to permanently commit North Park. They're just not necessarily the same thing. I hope that the county carefully considers the opportunity costs of placing a non-revenue generating government facility on land that may otherwise strengthen Monroe County's long-term economic future. And I also hope that we continue investing in broader solutions alongside construction discussions, including diversion, mental health, and just adding more mental health resources and addiction treatment, reentry support, and upstream strategies that we can use to help with more prevention. At the end of the day, urgency just should inform decision-making. It should not replace strategic planning. Fast actions necessary, but permanent decisions still deserve caution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Another hand raised via Teams, and I don't see it anymore. So I'll give it a couple of more seconds to see if that other hand will pop up. And while we do that, I'll go back to here and see if there's any final comment from members of the public who have not made comment yet. See. Oh, the hand came back. Okay. So screen name Sherry, again, state your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes. Sherry, you'll need to unmute. Okay.
Hello, my name is Sherry Morris. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
I really am no expert in buildings by any stretch. I do work for the county, and I simply have a couple of thoughts to share. To be honest, every time I drive by a field that is unbuilt near downtown Bloomington, it dawns on me that this could be a potential location, not to start from ground a greenfield to build an entirely new facility, but I can definitely understand the need for additional structures that would provide mental health and addiction support, and I heard padded cells, different additional structures and facilities that are needed in the current facility that could be additive as opposed to starting and replacing what we have. I say, why don't we use the money, keep what we have, and build, maybe it's Hopewell, maybe it's reconfiguring the Curry building, maybe it's the old Johnson Hardware building, the old health center, the fields around the trades district. I don't know where, but there are options. And then we can build what we need to add the services that are required. And I also appreciated two things: how Mr. Spoonmore did a comparative analysis, and we were woefully out of line with other communities financially with building structures. And I also appreciated the sheriff's comment that where it is isn't important, we just need the facilities. But I don't know why we need to rebuild everything we have to add these extra facilities. Can't we keep what we have, improve where we need, and build additional or acquire and reconfigure existing buildings to provide those extra services in downtown Bloomington? That's all.
Thank you. Amy double, where's product vibes? Okay, let's see if we don't have any other further comment from the public. I want to say thank you all very much for making your comment here and coming in the room here, and also making public comment virtually. So you appreciate that. I'm gonna go back for a final comment from council. So I'll just kind of look down the dais and see if there is any comment from council based upon what we've heard. So, oh, does anybody have public comment or a comment? Yes, Council Hall. If you could,
I beg your pardon?
I want to hear you talk first, Marty.
Well, I think these good people are here and they want a decision, and we know how we're going to vote, whether it's tonight or 2 weeks from now. And it seems to me that they deserve an answer. They thought they had the answer last year, and then they're, now we're having to do it again. And if we don't get, and here's the way it works, folks. If we don't all agree tonight, then we will be required to do it in 2 weeks from now. Then it won't take all of us, it just takes a majority. So it takes 4 votes if we do it in 2 weeks from now. But if we do it tonight and 1 or 2 do not agree, it won't hurt anything. We just go ahead and meet again 2 weeks from now. So not vote at all is it's just not correct. We should just go ahead and vote. People will know where we stand. You like voting? No, vote no. We'll just vote again 2 weeks from now. But my concern is that those folks and people at home are getting tired of hearing about the jail. I know my daughter's getting tired of hearing about the jail. We've been talking about it for years. So I think since we've already decided we're going to build a jail someplace, and many of us no longer want to build it at North Park, let's just vote and be done. Does anybody else want to vote tonight?
Councilor Henry, does anybody have any other comments before? Councilor Henry, did you have
Yeah,
any
I think I said a lot of words, so I agree with Councilor Hawk that I don't know what more we can add in commentary. We tend to get in that mode around here where we say it all over again, but I'll go ahead and make the motion to call the question on whether or not to adopt the purchase agreement or ordinance 2026-17. Go ahead and call the question on whether or not to adopt the ordinance. Second.
I don't know what the motion is, so I'm.
Right. Okay, clarification.
Councilman Henry, can you repeat the motion?
It's calling the question. So I move to vote on the adoption of ordinance 2026-17. Move to approve. Let's go with that.
Second.
Okay, we got, excuse me. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other further questions or comments from council?
But a no vote, it says we're not in favor.
I think that if you wouldn't mind, Molly, you did a really nice job of explaining the implications of voting up and down vis-a-vis the wording of the motion, which is, I think, what gave some of us pause. If you wouldn't mind explaining that again, that would be helpful for, I think, everyone to be on the same page.
So pursuant to Indiana Code, in order for the ordinance to pass tonight on the same day that it's introduced, it requires unanimous consent. Tonight is an introduction first reading. It doesn't require a vote, but a vote has been called for. If there's not a vote tonight, then the vote will occur on May 26th, and that vote would either, if it passed, it would pass by majority. It would not have to be unanimous that night. I think council has two options. They could move forward with the vote tonight or consider whether to table it to the 26th. The motion at hand is a motion to approve the ordinance.
No.
Yeah.
That is the motion.
That's the motion.
That's what I moved. So
Unless I misunderstood Councilmember Henry's motion, I believe the motion on the table is a motion to approve.
Whether or
Is
not,
that correct?
Yes.
whether or not it gets approved is a different story, but the motion is to approve the ordinance, right?
No vote would signal not approving the ordinance.
A no vote would be to not approve the ordinance. That is not the same as a denial or not to deny the ordinance. A failed motion to approve is not the same as a denial. Does that make sense to everyone? I'm getting some concerned looks.
It makes sense to those of us who've heard it before. So it might bear repeating in a, I don't know, I'm sorry.
Because this is the same that would happen
So if we
in the.
withdraw,
That is
if we,
the issue,
if we withdraw the second.
So to be clear,
And restate the motion.
Counselor, one second. So just to make sure I understand, this is the same as what we've done back in October.
This
where
is the
we
same thing that happened with the
voted
additional appropriation. A failed motion to approve is not the same as a denial.
Right. And so when last year, when we voted unanimously no, we had to come back around and vote around or say it again just to make sure that was all clear. Okay. So should that happen, we would have to vote again no. Just making it clear.
Should the motion on the table fail, that is a failed motion to approve. And so that is not the same as a denial.
President, I have an amendment. I'd like to motion to deny ordinance 2026-17. That would answer the question.
Right.
Would end it tonight.
Ms. Turner King, is that your interpretation?
I'm hardly hearing you, sorry.
Ms. Turner King, is that your interpretation? If the motion to deny, then we're done.
If the new motion is to deny the passage of the ordinance, when you say then we're done, do you mean that we're not going to have a second reading? Like, before I answer, I need to understand the context of this question.
Let's try again. My intention is to take a vote on the ordinance to either we accept the ordinance or we deny it this evening. There would not be a second reading because we will have killed the ordinance on that vote. The word denial seems to do that.
Yes, if a motion to deny the ordinance would not require a second reading on the 26th.
Okay. My amendment still stands.
And I didn't hear your amendment.
Motion is to amending the motion to deny ordinance 2026-17. Mr. Iverson was my second, but it seems like he doesn't agree.
I do not consent.
Okay, may I second it then? Okay, I second.
If that's what you will. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to deny.
Amending.
Yes, Councilor Iverson.
And I wanted to clarify why I wasn't wanting to second that. And the reason is because we have an empty chair next to us. We need to have all 7 members weigh on this very important issue. And it is not appropriate to be making this decision when we have an empty chair.
Point of information.
We may have two empty
hold on.
chairs next
Point of
to us.
information, Madam President.
Yes.
What was the vote on the last time we considered the North Park purchase agreement? Was it not 6-0? Were we not missing a member that evening?
7-0.
I believe Councilor Hawk had left before the vote.
I wasn't there.
I believe Michelle is looking up that information in the minutes.
There's no requirement that you have everybody in attendance.
My question is for Ms. Molly Turner King. On a motion to deny, if if there is a less than unanimous vote, is the outcome the same? Does it need a simple majority?
For the motion to deny to pass, it would be a majority vote.
What happens in a tie?
If the motion, if the vote on a motion to deny is 3-3, it neither passes nor neither passes nor fails, so it would move to a second reading.
So to be,
Right now, we could.
so technically, this is an amendment to deny, right? And so.
This is a motion to deny the
Right.
ordinance.
And, well, he also talked about, or he made an amendment to his motion. So never mind. I just answered my own question. Okay.
So can we restate what we're potentially voting on here, please? I'm sorry.
So Councilor Henry had made an amendment to deny the ordinance. Originally, it was to approve it, but when we approve it, because it's first reading, that would require a unanimous consent. If it did not have unanimous consent, then see you in 2 weeks on the 26th for a second reading where majority passes. In this particular case, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Turner King, because we are denying ordinance, not necessarily approving it, that kills this ordinance for tonight, and there is no second reading. Did I understand that?
It passes majority.
Passes majority.
If your motion to deny passes majority, it would then kill, in essence, the ordinance, and there would not be a second reading. If the motion ties, it neither passes nor fails, and there would be a second reading.
Go ahead.
So if a motion to deny, if a motion to deny fails, we still haven't approved.
Correct.
Yeah.
If you increase
I
our
get it.
votes
I
to
support it.
deny, we're done. And then folks get their answer.
Right.
And I don't want
Don't know whether
I-
to say yes or no,
we need
just say vote
someone else
to
to
deny.
be here.
Yeah,
to vote.
I concur with Counselor Iverson. I think, I'm sorry, I think that it's important that we have all 7 counselors
We're
here.
not going to have 7 next meeting either.
What, are you skipping?
Yes, we're not going to be here 7.
Oh, Poopy Lou.
Yeah. And I'm not going into my personal life up here. But I had something that was already planned. And I had not decided to be here. But I guess if duty calls, then I'll, just like I did tonight, leave what I do personally and come back here. Because that's what I get paid the big bucks to do. So, but again, I feel like folks know what they want to, or they already know what they need to do. Do we need to push this off for another couple of weeks, or do you want to go ahead and do it now? That's the topic of the question, and that's the vote.
My motion's on the floor, Madam President, so
Okay.
either take the vote or we don't. I mean, the motion's on the
Right.
floor.
I'll call question.
Okay. So we have called the question, so now we. Yeah, the amendment is his amendment to deny. Correct.
I'm confused. Are we voting on an amendment to his motion?
There was an amendment to the motion. There was a second. There has not been a vote on the amendment. So if you want to take a vote on the amendment first, that's usually what we do.
Voting on the amendment.
Yep, so let's vote on the amendment.
Okay, let's read the amendment.
To clarify, what you're voting on is a motion. Councilor Henry made a motion to approve ordinance.
2026-17.
That's the number. It was seconded, and then there was subsequently a motion to amend that motion to change the language to a motion to deny ordinance 2026-17. So this is not a vote on that underlying motion. This is just a vote on the amendment to that motion.
Correct. Then do we go back to the first motion?
If the amendment passes, then you would vote on that now motion.
Which is to deny.
Would it be a motion to deny?
If the amendment fails, we go back to the approval question.
Correct.
Need a flow chart.
Right, I mean, yes.
So do we want to do that?
We've got a motion and a second. We've got a motion and a second. Let's.
Madam President.
Yes.
Yeah, seeing as this has caused some confusion, to go with the more assertive posture this evening and maybe not go for it, I'll withdraw the motion. I'll withdraw my amendment. So that would take us back to the original motion of just voting up or down, but it means
Second reading.
It doesn't deny it. It means it goes to second reading. Is that correct?
Withdrawing your emotion means that the emotion then is a motion to approve ordinance 2026-17. Voting yes approves the motion. If it's not unanimous, then it would go to a second reading. Voting no is, and if that fails, then it's a failed motion to approve, which is not the same as a motion to deny.
So,
okay.
So, Madam President,
You
I
did
withdraw
withdraw.
my amendment so we can return to the
Okay.
original question.
So we have it's withdrawn, and now it's the overall original one where he said to vote to approve.
Okay.
But all we have to do is just.
So I'm gonna ask for
We're gonna have
a roll call.
Okay, so to reiterate.
Yeah.
So to reiterate, the motion to deny has been withdrawn. We are going back to the original motion where it's the motion to adopt ordinance 2026-17.
Correct.
So this is to approve the ordinance of the purchase of the property. Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Can I pass?
Pass and we'll come back.
No.
Counselor Hawk.
No.
Next week.
Did she answer? I'm
She
sorry.
said
no.
Okay, thank you. Counselor
Yes.
Crossley.
No.
Counselor Henry.
No.
Counselor Fidel.
So we're approving.
You're approving the purchase.
No.
Counselor Wiltz.
Can you tell me the count?
Pardon?
Count right now.
It is 4 noes, 1 yes.
Not gonna pass, so no.
No. Motion fails 1 to 5 with a second reading required.
Hope you're happy. 'Cause
Okay.
we are.
All right.
What I wanted.
So thank you all for that, and this comes back again for a second reading
Yeah, are you
on
so
the
happy with yourself?
26th
Yes.
of May.
Let's have a lot.
Okay, so I'm going to jump back into the agenda because that was a lot. All right, so presentations, discussions, boards and commissions. As we wrap up tonight, council, please. Councilor Henry had some scheduling conflicts with emergency management and the MPO meetings, and he also would need to step down. So is there anybody that?
Can I ask that the audience please be quiet? I cannot hear Counselor Crossley. Thank you.
Is there anybody that would like to take Councilmember Henry's appointments?
When are the meeting dates and times?
The Madam President, if I may.
Yeah.
Emergency EMAC is, I think Commissioner Madeira probably could answer faster than I could. I think it's like the third Tuesday of the month at 10
Well,
a.m.
it matters when they are.
Yeah,
If I'm going to decide.
Well, yeah, I understand. I didn't prepare that. And then the MPO meets every other month, or is it quarterly? I think it's quarterly. Councilor Wiltz was on it before. I mean, I can look it up while we're waiting. I mean, we do have a little time before the next meetings of these bodies to discuss it at the next meeting.
Do they meet monthly?
EMAC is not monthly.
Say that again.
It's not. Neither one of them are monthly.
Oh, then
But
can
let
we
me
wait till next
get
time?
the date and times here.
Okay. Wait till
But-
next
but
time?
Madam President, I think if we could wait till next time to
That's-
decide
okay.
those, they're not meeting between
Okay.
now and then.
So,
And I can always ask for a proxy to attend until we
okay.
figure it out.
So ideally what will happen next is if anybody wants to take it, we got 2 more weeks to figure it out.
Sounds great.
All right. Next up, update on legal counsel. I ain't got it. So we're just gonna move on with that one. The review of, our COLA numbers. Michelle, is that something you want to do now, or should we?
I can just do it really quick. It won't take that long.
Okay.
This is the time of year that we always go through the Midwest Consumer Price Index, which is the CPI. We always use the December of the prior year, so this 2026. So we always use the December 2025 CPI. And for 2025, it is 2.7%. I went through, did a breakdown, did all the calculations. A flat rate of the 2.7% COLA would be 90 cents on the hour. So that's where you stand with that information. This history, as it was in the packet for your review, it shows what you've done. I can go back farther, but this particular spreadsheet takes you back to 2021 with all the history. So I just wanted to let you guys know this is where you're at. Councilor Crossley has yet to do the 2027 budget president letter. I know that there was a push for last year to do the 3% COLA, even though we probably technically couldn't handle it budget-wise, but we did manage to get it on there. So you've said many times, several times since then, that there probably wouldn't be a COLA, but I just wanted to get you that information out there to you. Time of year that I do it, so.
Yep, Councilor Henry and then Iverson.
Thank you, Madam President. Councilor Iverson, in your various hats you wear around here, did this come up at FSG in your long-term finance?
It did not. It did not come. We talked about this a little bit, but it's in the sustainability report that we are going to have them come and present sometime next month.
In June, yes.
Yeah, in June. So I don't have it in front of me, but there was a recommendation in that sustainability report, and it was 2%.
It was a 2%.
Okay, and we're showing a 2.7 is what CPI is.
Yes.
So there's your answer.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Let's see, I did get confirmation. He is coming to the June 23rd meeting. So we'll have an update with the sustainability to the entire council at that meeting, so.
Councilor Iverson?
I was going to raise the same exact topic, so it's been addressed.
Anybody else? Seeing none. Yeah, don't have the letter for, as Michelle said, lots of things have come about that has pushed that back for me, and I will have that for my colleagues at the 26th meeting. All right, next up, we will move on to council liaison updates and comments before we adjourn. So I will look down to my left here and start with Ms. Vital.
So I attended the last Fair Board meeting, and I want to remind folks this month and next month that the fair coming up is June 27th through July 5th of this year. So it's a Saturday through the following Sunday. If you want vendor space, you can email mcfcommercialbooths@gmail.com. So it's MCF, Monroe County Fair, commercial booths, BOOTHS, @gmail.com if you want fair. And then I was involved in an airport master plan meeting. I don't have my thoughts collected on, so I'll talk about that next time.
Councilor Wiltz? Councilor Iverson?
No comments.
Councilor Henry?
Not this evening. Thank you, Madam President.
All right. Well, yeah, that was interesting. Okay, so I don't have anything either. End of the school year is upon us for MCCSC and I'm sure RBB, but I am a mom of MCCSC folks, so hats off to those that made it another year. Again, I just want to say thank you to public comment that stuck around and gave comment. So with that being said, we are adjourned. Thank you.